You know, there's a narrative in YouTube right now that retro gaming and retro game collecting is a dying thing, that people are just giving up on it finally. They're just walking away. And I don't buy it. I don't agree with it. Because while retro game collecting might be something that is starting to go by the wayside a little bit, perhaps, because it is a very expensive hobby, I think people are still playing their games. Whether via things like PlayStation Plus, Xbox Game Pass, the Nintendo Switch Online service, classic games are always going to be a part of us. What's going on, everybody? I'm Jay. Welcome to Square Pegs. Glad you're here. Today, I am taking a look back at all of the retro games that I was playing in 2025. It's going to be a long video. Grab some popcorn.
I mean, yeah, you might as well start off with Mario Kart, right? Like, it's a great game, it's a great series, great franchise, and it plays fantastically well on the Nintendo 3DS. Mario Kart 7 is no joke. It does a lot of stuff that we kind of take for granted now with Mario Kart 8, things like the hang gliders, things like going underwater, stuff like that. It was stuff that had never been done before, and it was pretty cool. It was pretty well done. I really, really enjoy it. There's 32 different courses for you to pick from, 16 different racers, which is great. It's a nice, classic, simple Mario Kart experience. You can play online or local, up to 8 players, which is awesome. There's a bunch of different single-player modes as well. And I really like the different character options and some of the different items that are in the game. Metal Mario, Lakitu, Wiggler, those are in the game for the first time. I think the Tanuki suit was a item for the first time, which actually gives you the raccoon tail to hit other players with or to knock things away from you, which I think is pretty cool. That was in a previous game. I apologize, I'm just not remembering it. But I really do enjoy this one. I think it's a super fun game. Track designs are great. Gameplay is wonderful. Music is fantastic. I mean, it's Mario Kart, man. It doesn't do anything wrong. There's a lot to really love about Androdunos 2. So first off, it's the rare shmup, and it is one I did not originally play on the 3DS. I actually originally played this on the Switch. I covered it on an eShop Hidden Gems video a couple of years ago, and discovered well after the fact that this is actually a 3DS game. One of the last 3DS games ever made, actually, and it's a brilliant title. It's a fantastic bullet hell shooter that is properly difficult, and if you think it's easy, just know that I'm bad at video games. I just like talking about them, so take that smugness elsewhere. But it's a really fun game. I think it looks great. The sound in the game is fantastic. The different power-ups are really fun. The ability to kind of level up the different weapons you have independently of each other is really awesome. I really, really dig this one. And there's some really neat stuff going on as well with things other than just the gameplay itself. Like, the bottom screen of the game is kind of useless, but it's neat to see the way that the pilot interacts with the movements that you're using in the game. So, like, as you go up, you'll see him actually, like, pull down on the flight stick or push up on the flight stick if you're going down. It's really creative. It's a really nice use of that. I really do enjoy this one, though. It's a fantastic shmup, a really difficult game, and great to play on the 3DS, and great to play elsewhere as well if you want to play it on something other than a 3DS. There are no shortage of great turn-based strategy games on the Nintendo 3DS. Everything just from the Fire Emblem series alone is worth playing. It's all fantastic, and I could have done an entire video just talking about all the... Ooh, maybe I'll do a ranking video of Fire Emblem games. Okay, yeah, that's going to happen sometime soon. But right now we are talking about a different type of turn-based strategy game on the 3DS, and it is called Stella Glow. This was developed or released by Atlas here in the States. I think it was developed by someone else. I don't know exactly who, but the gameplay is really solid. It's classic turn-based strategy action, right? Like, it's not overcomplicating things. It's not trying to reinvent the wheel or anything like that. It's just a cutesy turn-based strategy game that's really fun and really well designed. Like, you go through, you have different characters. One of them has a spoon that she clubs people with, which I think is great. All the characters are really cool. It's just a really kind of adorable game. There's some relationship building stuff in the game as well, which is fine. It doesn't do anything really exceptional, but it doesn't do anything poorly either. I think it's a really fun title and definitely worth looking into if you've never played it. Now, when I say I go back to Spy Hunter on the 3DS, I want to point out it's not because Spy Hunter is a great game. I just have fun with it. It is a deeply flawed game. The controls are very touchy. It is Spy Hunter kind of in name only, because it's not like the controls are touchy. It is not a tightly controlling game like classic Spy Hunter was, but it's fun. Like, and I think that's really what it boils down to, is I just have fun with this absolutely absurd title. Because you are playing in this souped up car, you are driving along, you're able to blow up other cars that are on the road that are trying to take you out. You have a bunch of different weapons you can use. It's just fun. It's not good. Don't get me wrong. Like, I don't want to tell you it's a good game because that would be a lie, but it's fun. And sometimes that's all you need is just some dumb fun. We were spoiled for a lot of really excellent role-playing games on the Nintendo 3DS. And one of the ones I really enjoyed was The Legend of Legacy, which has, incidentally, a remaster on modern consoles. So if you don't have a 3DS and this looks interesting to you, check it out on things like the PS5 and the Switch. This is a classic role-playing game where you get to play as one of 7 different protagonists, and you get to basically form a party that's kind of predetermined at the start, but as you play, you're able to recruit more characters. And one of the really neat things about this game is you are filling in a map as you go. So as you wander the world, your map is going to draw in. It starts off as a blank slate, and you're able to fill it into 100%, which I think is really cool. As someone who just kind of digs maps and the art of, cartography, it's pretty neat. I really dig it. It doesn't really have a huge impact on the gameplay, but it's neat to feel that kind of rush of, hey, I did it, I got 100%. The gameplay is really solid. It's classic turn-based RPG action, and it plays incredibly well. The look of the game is wonderful. There's some really solid gameplay options here. The characterizations are really good. Some of the enemy designs are really creative, and I like the level designs. And I like stuff like, as you're wandering around, the trees kind of drawing in as you play to show that you don't know this area. It's undiscovered. I think that's really clever, and it kind of masks some of the weaknesses of the 3DS as a system by drawing those things in and not storing them in memory all the time. It kind of cleans things up a little bit. Great game. If you've never played it, it's definitely worth checking out. Like I said, it's also on modern consoles, so Legend of Legacy, definitely worth looking into. Oh, this is one of the ones that suffers the worst from having to use the emulation to show how the game plays, but Kid Icarus Uprising is 100% brilliant if you have everything you need to be able to play it successfully. Like, you desperately need a stand because you're using the stylus to move the reticle around on the screen of where you're actually aiming, and to just hold it, your hand is going to get really tired. So you need a little stand for it, but it's awesome. Anyway, let's not talk about peripherals. Let's actually talk about the game. It's a Kid Icarus game. First off, that's amazing in and of itself because Nintendo just really does not care about this IP, which is unfortunate. And it's a fantastic Kid Icarus game. It plays a lot like Panzer Dragoon, and it's wonderful. It's really, really fun. It looks incredible. I would love to see this come to the Switch and just replace that stylus controls by just sticking it on the left thumbstick or on the right thumbstick. It would be amazing. It is a solid game that is properly difficult and incredibly fun. And just, if you're looking at this video and you just go, why are you suggesting this? This doesn't look good. Trust me, it's because I have to emulate it and I can't use the touch controls to be able to fire. It is an absolutely wonderful game, though. If you have it properly on the 3DS, it's absolutely brilliant. I don't really know that there's ever been a Shinobi game that I've, just disliked. I think they've all got a lot of promise and a lot of, quality to them, and the 3DS version of Shinobi is no different. Now, it's wildly different than standard Shinobi, especially if you got your start on Shinobi like I did back on the Sega Genesis, but the game is spectacular. It's really fun. The controls are tight, the gameplay is solid, there's some really neat, deflecting mechanics in play here. I like the different abilities that you're able to get, the touchscreen interaction is solid. It's just a fun game that does Shinobi really well. It doesn't, try to overthink the formula of what Shinobi is. It just kind of goes for what worked, pluses it here and there as necessary, and makes the game overall really fun. I like the level designs, I like the boss fights, I like the overall concept of the game. Works really well. Super fun to play Shinobi. I won't spend a ton of time on this one. Everyone knows this game and knows how excellent it is. This is Metroid Samus Returns. It is a continuation of the fantastic 2D Metroid series. It is just a brilliantly executed title, and this actually led us to get Metroid Dread. The same guys that developed this developed Dread, and it's wonderful. There's some really creative things involved here. I like the melee attack. I like the exploration. It's classic Metroid fare, and it works. If you dig Metroid, you're going to love this one. I don't know how you couldn't. I think it's fantastic. The only regret I have about this game is that I never got the Samus 3DS that they released, the orange one that has her on it. I really wanted to get it. I talked to my wife about it a few times, and I never pulled the trigger on it. And now I can't find it anywhere for a reasonable price. So, unfortunately, I'm going to have to let that one go. But you should not let Metroid Samus Return go. It's wonderful. I've talked about Need for Speed The Run several times in the past on the channel, but that has always been in reference to the Xbox 360 version, which is spectacular as long as you remember to turn off your Wi-Fi, because it doesn't work if you have your Wi-Fi on. That's unfortunate. But today, this one here, Need for Speed The Run on the 3DS, is such a solid entry into a storied franchise that was never really well represented on the DS or on the 3DS. It's a fantastic game. You're basically doing the Cannonball Run. The game starts off with you kind of getting pushed off of a bridge in your car. You break out of the car. You're rescued by a woman. You guys get into this super fast car, and then you're off to drive across the country. And it's amazing. This, kind of like Kid Icarus, is one that suffers a little bit from the fact that I had to emulate it because it was harder to play this and not be able to use the stylus on the touchscreen because I was playing on a computer screen and not actually on a 3DS. There's some really neat interaction that you can do there, but it's still a really fun title even without that. I do love this game. It is such a wonderful racing title and so cool to see Need for Speed represented on the 3DS. I love Super Mario 3D Land. I think it is one of the best Mario games ever made, and it's kind of remarkable to me that we got this incredible 3D Mario adventure on the 3DS. And I realize now saying that how absurd that sounds, but it's a really ambitious game that they crammed onto a 3DS cartridge and made work beautifully well, which, I mean, it's Nintendo. They're kind of wizards, so I kind of expect that, but this is one that just kind of blew me away when I played it. It's a fantastically designed game with some really creative levels. Things that we saw presented here got perfected in Super Mario 3D World on the Wii U, and it doesn't really take that much of a leap forward. It was a great game already on the 3DS, and it became a near perfect game on the Wii U. The designs are great. The different enemies are wonderful. The power-ups in the game are fantastic. The level designs are excellent. And of course, the music is perfection. It's just magnificent. It is one of the necessary games, I think, for everyone to own that has a 3DS.
The best thing about Quirk, besides its amazing box art, which, I mean, like I said, punk rock tomato, can't go wrong with that. The best thing about Quirk is that it does so much with so very, very little, because graphically, this game is a dog. It's not good. It's really ugly. It's really hard to make out what's going on screen, but you can figure out what you need to do just based on the fantastic gameplay. This is a puzzle game where you're moving obstacles around to either fill a hole, move things out of the way so you can get to the exit, or using a second character that you're able to control to be able to block things from moving, etc., etc. It's a brilliant kind of logic puzzle that is just so much fun to play and just so well designed and so well executed. I was gifted this game by my mom, I want to say, one Christmas, and I couldn't understand why I got a game with a punk rock tomato on the cover, and it ended up being one of my absolute favorite Game Boy titles. It's not one I hear folks talk about very often, so to me, this one is decidedly overlooked, and that's a shame because it's wonderful. Stop and you'll see, wish I could be part of your world. And I wish people recognized how much fun this game is, and I am guilty as charged of being a hater on this title. Like, I'm not a Little Mermaid fan to begin with, so wasn't going to play it when I was younger, and I got this in a Video Games Monthly shipment, and I remember, like, rolling my eyes when I saw it and just being like, oh, come on, man, I don't want to play this. And what I got is a really, really well done game. I never should have doubted Capcom and a Disney license. I really shouldn't have. You play as Ariel. You have different mermaid powers, I guess, for lack of a better term. You're able to collect things, pick them up, use them as weapons, use them as ways to kind of eliminate the enemies that are on screen. It's a really well-designed game. It's really fun. It's not perfect. Like, there's some aspects of it where I'm just like, okay, that's a bit of a miss, but I love it. I think a lot of people overlook this one in favor of things like DuckTales or Rescue Rangers, and that's a shame because it's a really solid title and definitely worth playing if you haven't done so. Don't skip this one just because you don't like The Little Mermaid. Unless you do love The Little Mermaid, and then you should play it. Motocross Maniacs was the game that lived in my Game Boy when I was younger, if I wasn't playing Tetris, to be fair. When so many people were busy playing things like Super Mario Land, or they were playing other games that released at the launch of the Game Boy that I'm not remembering off the top, baseball, alleyway, stuff like that, I was playing Motocross Maniacs, and I was head over heels in love with this game. And to this day, it's one of my favorite Game Boy experiences. I love racing games. I love driving games. And this was something that I had never seen before. This was Excite Bike, but much better. It was
awesome to be able to do these crazy loops, to go on these amazing jumps, and I didn't feel like it was trying to just like beat me down like Excitebike frequently did, and I just enjoyed this one so much more, and I thought it was such a quality experience from top to bottom that I just love it, and I love it to this day. And I love every version of Motocross Maniacs that I played. Like this one, Motocross Maniacs 2, the Game Boy Advance release, like every single one of them is really fun. Absolutely love this title, and you can find this for like a Coke and a song now. It costs nothing, and it's absolutely worth playing. Don't overlook this one just because it was an early Game Boy release. It's fun as hell. It's hard to say that Double Dragon is an overlooked game when it's, Double Dragon. It's spectacular. But this is the Sega Master System version, and the one I always hear people talk about is the NES release, and the Master System version exceeds it in every single way. The graphics are better. The combat is better. Everything is better on the Sega Master System release of Double Dragon. It's my preferred way to play the game. I really love this one. It is challenging. It feels more true to the arcade experience. Like, it's not one-to-one. That wasn't going to happen, but it's pretty damn close to what you got in the arcades. And it's really, really fun. Like, I know so many people love the NES release, myself included. I love the NES release. I love 2 more, but this first release of Double Dragon on the Master System is just magnificent. I cannot recommend this one enough, and I am shocked when people tell me how much they love Double Dragon and they have never played this Master System version. If you haven't played the Battle of Olympus, you would be forgiven for looking at it and saying, that's a Zelda 2 clone, I don't want to play it. And I ain't gonna lie to you, Zelda 2 almost made the list on this one because I love that game too. But for me, there's something special about the Battle of Olympus. I grew up a massive fan of Greek mythology. It was something I absolutely loved reading about. I loved going to the library and checking out books about Greek culture and the ancient Greek pantheon and things like that. And to see that recognized as a viable medium for storytelling via video games in this NES game blew my mind when I was a kid. There was nothing I wouldn't do to get this game. It was something that I had to have it. I loved it when I got it. I thought it was fantastic, and I greatly ignored the fact that there was probably some borrowed assets from Zelda 2. There was definitely some borrowed gameplay from Zelda 2, but I still loved it. It didn't matter to me. And to this day, this was one of the first games that I went out and made sure that I got a complete in-box copy of when I started collecting games for the NES again. It's a fantastic title. It does play a lot like Zelda 2, so if you're not a fan of Zelda 2, you can just move on past this one. But to me, this is just something where the setting, the story, and everything that went into making this game and designing this game and how much it just kind of stuck the landing for me personally makes me think this one is underrated. Absolutely worth playing. Absolutely phenomenal title. Survival Kids is something really unique. So this is a Game Boy Color release, and this is one of the first experiences I can really remember outside of a PC where the focus of the game is survival. Like, it wasn't a traditional role-playing game. It wasn't something where you needed to, collect the hearts and, go find a magical sword. No, you were collecting food and stuff to build fires with and to survive on. And you had to avoid enemies because you could get poisoned like I do repeatedly by these stupid wasps. It's just so clever and so smartly designed. I was blown away by this game when I first played it, and I still am to this day. Like, it is such a signature experience to me, and this is one of the games I think of when I think Game Boy Color, and I keep forgetting to talk about this on the channel, so I'm taking the opportunity now because I think more people need to know about it. If you haven't played it, you should. It's a really spectacular title. There's a sequel in Japan as well. It's really good, but you need to download an English language patch to be able to play it, because unless you read Japanese, in which case you're good to go. But for me, needed an English language patch, but the original one, no joke, absolutely worth playing. In this case, I'm saying this one is overlooked because it is overshadowed greatly in popularity by its Genesis counterpart, Castle of Illusion. This is Castle of Illusion for the Sega Master System. And while, the one on the Genesis probably has a nicer coat of paint, and is definitely more popular, this game is no slouch, man. It is really fun. It makes great use of the Disney license. Like, this is a pure Mickey adventure. Like, this feels like it stepped out of the Silly Symphony shorts from the 1930s and 1940s. I really enjoy this one, and I like all of the Disney games on the Master System, for the record. Like, you can't go wrong with anything from Mickey or Donald on the Master System. They're both wonderful. I just kind of figured y'all get tired of me talking about the Lucky Dime Caper because I bring that up whenever I can. Hey, I just did it again. I love this one, though. Castle of Illusion is great. It's a fantastic counterpart to the original Castle of Illusion on the Sega Genesis. It plays differently. It doesn't have like a force-fed level layout that's similar to the Genesis version. It's its own unique experience. Absolutely worth playing if you haven't done so. This game is one I hunted for a long time. I looked for it at multiple conventions. I never found it. I got lucky at the Pittsburgh Gaming Expo a couple of years. I wandered into a booth, and lo and behold, there it was. This is Burger Time in Bedrock. Now, what is Burger Time in Bedrock, you may ask? It's Burger Time in Bedrock. Yep, you play as Fred, who is taking the role of Peter Pepper in this game, and you have your giant caveman club, and you go around and you're playing Burger Time, man. It's really not that hard to explain. It's just like Burger Time, and so much so that it's incredibly difficult. It can be very frustrating and unfair, but I love it. It is a classic arcade experience. It is a wonderful game. I love the addition of the Flintstones license on this title because, I mean, while on the surface it doesn't really make sense, when I stop and think about it, yeah, in the grand scheme of things, Fred's the character I can see eating a bunch of hamburgers. Love this one. Absolutely fantastic title. Gotta thank my buddy John Riggs for telling me about this game because I was a fan of Captain America and the Avengers, the arcade experience, as well as the Super Nintendo release and the one on the Genesis, which I eventually picked up. And he told me, Jay, you need to play the NES release. And I said, the NES release? It's that kind of crappy platformer, right? Where you only get to play as Cap and Hawkeye? He said, Jay, just trust me, you've got to try it out. And I did, and he's not wrong. It is magnificent. It is such a wonderful platformer. It's great. Like, both characters play true to form. Like, Cap has a little bit more superpowers than Hawkeye does, but Hawkeye has more range because, he's got a bow and arrow. So each character plays a little bit differently. The level designs are really well done. It's got a good challenge to it while still being fair and fun. So it doesn't lean too hard into NES difficult where you just want to, pull your hair out and throw your controller against the wall, but love it. Absolutely love it. And, I'm a sucker for a licensed game anyway, so when I could get a good licensed 8-bit game, I'm down for it. Captain America and the Avengers rules, man.
I mean, of course I gotta start with Mega Man, right? If I'm talking about games that are frustrating, you gotta go all the way back to where the Blue Bomber began, and that is with the original Mega Man 1. A game I did not beat for nearly 25 years. This was one that, it might be less than 25, math is hard. I ended up playing this and beating it on the Mega Man Legacy Collection. Not the Legacy Collection, the Mega Man Anniversary Collection on the GameCube. I was working on Fight Night Round 2 at the time, and we were in the process of submitting the game, and at that point there's not a whole lot for the QA lead to do. You're just kind of there to fill out paperwork and stuff like that. So during our 100 man-hour test, I played through the first Mega Man game. And I beat it for the first time in my life, and the only time in my life, I may add. And while the game is frustrating, and it's difficult, and it's incredibly challenging, and they did a lot of quality of life changes with the subsequent games in the series, I still think it's worth playing because it is where the character began. And while there are some major differences in that first game to games that were continued in the series, it's still fun, and it's still an excellent challenge that, yes, it can be frustrating, but it's worthwhile. This game right here, Ninja Gaiden on the original NES, is my white whale to defeat because I've never done it. It's one that I set out a personal challenge to beat, and I have fallen short every single time I've done it. And as much as that would typically dissuade me from continuing to play it, it is one that, for me, makes it worthwhile because the game is just so masterfully crafted. It is such a phenomenal title that has great mechanics, a great design overall, whether it's the characters and the enemies or the weapons or the level layouts, things like that. Everything in this game works. It's just done in such a way that it is almost mind-numbingly hard at times. And for me in particular, it's one that I just have this mental block that I cannot get past it, and I don't know why. Because I have beaten many, many video games in my life, but this one just continues to elude me. And it's one that I will continue to try to beat. And I am not one that is subscribing to the fact that you can't use things like save states and things like that, which is why I'm playing it through currently on the Switch Online service, because I can rewind and I can pause and I can save. As long as I beat it, that's good enough for me. I ain't gonna, enter a speedrun competition or anything like that. I just want to beat the game. I want to see the ending with my own eyes. It's frustrating, but it's fun. What do you think about this one? Do you think this or the third game in the series is more difficult? Let me know in the comments. I think if I had done this video 3 years ago, this game probably wouldn't be on the list because I've experienced a bit of a renaissance with Battletoads, at least mentally, because when I played this game when I was a kid, it just pissed me off to the nth degree and I didn't want to play it ever again. And it wasn't until I got the Rare Replay game on my Xbox One that I decided to dive back into it, and I appreciate it a lot more now. I can see kind of the masterclass that is a Rare video game in its DNA and the way it's built, and knowing that, I think I'm a little bit more forgiving of it than I was when I was a kid. It's still an incredibly difficult game. It's still incredibly frustrating, and it is a game that leans into being unfair at times, but I think it's forgiven because it's quality at the end of the day. The graphics in the game are wonderful. The music is fantastic. If you can maintain your composure, the gameplay is spectacular as well. But it preys on your frustration. And when you get frustrated, that's when you start making mistakes. And mistakes are things that just cascade in Battletoads. I think Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link gets onto this list mainly because of the fact that it's such a different beast of a game than any other game in the Zelda franchise, and it is actually my favorite of the 8-bit Zelda titles. But I can definitely see why people find it frustrating, because there's no guidance in the game whatsoever. It is a crapshoot as to what you're supposed to do or where you're supposed to go. There are hints and things like that, but they're very limited in the messaging to actually tell you what exactly you need to do. And the gameplay mechanic can be a little tough too. Hitboxes are unfair, the movement can be a little bit icy and glidey, and that's kind of crappy, and there's certain things in the game that just kind of suck, frankly. Like the dark levels where you have to go through the dark caves and avoid the pits when you can't see anything to get to the second castle, or is that the first castle in the desert? I don't remember, it's been a while since I've played it, but it can definitely be frustrating, and that is directly related to the way that the game was designed. It isn't something where it's just a mechanic kind of throws you off. These were conscious decisions by the developers that make this game frustrating. And while it can get under my skin, and it isn't one I go back and play terribly often, I actually do play the original Zelda more often than I play this one, just because I find it to be more user-friendly and more approachable at the end of the day. I do still love it, and I do still really enjoy Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link. What are your thoughts on Link's first sequel in video games? Fans of the channel that have been here for a while will know that my opinion of Contra isn't as glowing as most people's opinion of Contra, and it's not because I think it's a bad game, it's because it is a very difficult game, and it's one that the way that the game is just laid out, it isn't meant for the average person to beat. Now, I'm not talking about you guys that have the game memorized down to the perfect muscle twitch for every single character on screen that you're going to encounter. I'm talking about people like me that suck at the game, that are going to be frustrated with it, that it requires the Konami code to be able to get through. I've only beaten Contra like 3 times in my life, and it had to have extra lives for me to be able to do it. That said, it's still an incredible title. Like, the stuff that knocks it down for me are not things that I would typically knock down a game for in other circumstances. It's stuff where I find the game to be incredibly difficult, and that makes it less fun for me. But when I look at the way that the game is designed, and the levels, and the weapons, and things like that, these are like landmark touchstone things that are seen to this day in run-and-gun video games. These are things we're still experiencing in modern video games to this day, and I think that's pretty amazing. And we owe that all to Contra. A lot of the games on this list are on here because I think they're kind of endemic of what video games have become since they released. These are things that are really representative of where the industry traveled to, and this one does not fit that bill. This is a weird one. This is an outlier, and it's one that is weird on so many levels. Like, it's not even just because it's not something that we have seen future iterations of, because it is a licensed game, and it's a licensed game based on an advertising property for Domino's Pizza from the late 80s and early 90s in the Noid. This is Yo Noid. You saw the title card, you know that, but it's such a difficult game, and it's such a frustrating title, but I can't help but be charmed by this game. It is just one that I love. And everyone I know that has played it also loves it, and we don't know why. Because it is so goddamn difficult. It's one that I think if this was any less charming, like if this wasn't something that was deeply seated and deeply tied into this, like, this advertising icon of our youth, we probably wouldn't give this a second chance. But because the Noid is in it, we're drawn to it, and we want to play it. And because of that, I think it's worth going to, especially for people that are my age, because this is a part of our youth. It was a part of our culture. It was something we grew up with. One of the finest soundtracks ever recorded on the NES is Batman. I adore everything about this game's sound. I think it is just a remarkable piece of music that is just laid over every single level, every single cutscene. Everything about this title just sounds amazing. Even the sound effects are great. Like, it just works. And it takes Tim Burton's version of Batman, the Michael Keaton Batman with the Jack Nicholson Joker, and it took that and did its own take on that and made something that's an incredibly creative NES game. And it's amazing. It's hard as hell, but it's amazing. And this is one that took me a very, very long time to finally beat. And it's one that I've only beaten a couple of times in my life, but I really do love it because it's such an escalating challenge. Like, the game is designed in such a logical way that it kind of ramps up the difficulty as you go, which is what you would hope for in most video game designs. But sometimes they just slap you in the face and kick you out the door and say, no, go die. But this one actually kind of takes it easy on you a little bit. It's still a very hard game, but as you play and as you go through, it's going to ramp things up just a bit more, just a bit more, just a bit more, until you get to the end of the game where it's incredibly hard. And that frustration is evident as you play, but it is so worth it, if for no other reason than to hear all the incredible music. But the level designs, the character animations, the look of the game is just, it's perfect. It is one of the best NES games ever made, as far as I'm concerned. I'm putting Castlevania 2 Simon's Quest on here in fear that most people are probably going to skip this, because I know a lot of people don't like this game, but because it strays so far from the original Castlevania and subsequent Castlevanias in the franchise. But for me, I really liked this one. This was my personal favorite NES Castlevania until I played Castlevania 3 years later. I didn't actually play Castlevania 3 until I was in my 20s. And it's one that, for me, I love the concept of it. I love that they took Castlevania and turned it into a quasi-RPG. I love the day-night cycle. I like that there's difficulty increases at night, where the monsters are more hard to kill. I like all of the things that the game adds, but the frustration comes into play because it's just so goddamn obscure. And it's so esoteric in the way it tries to describe to you what you need to do. Like, it's clever for the sake of being clever. And man, screw that. Just give me a sign, man. Tell me what I need to do. And when you finally beat this game, which I have done with the help of strategy guides and game facts and things like that, it's an incredibly rewarding feeling to beat. But just going through it with the keys in the game, you want to slap somebody. I love this game, but the design of it can be awful in places. Gradius, or Gradius, or however you pronounce it, gets on this list for as a kind of placeholder. And it is on here because I do find it to be an incredibly frustrating game. I think it's very difficult. It's a brilliantly designed shmup, but it is on here for the sake of the fact that it represents every single shmup pretty much ever made. I want so badly to be good at a shmup. This is like one of my favorite genres of games, and I am terrible at every single one of them. It is like letting your little brother play a game with you by having the controller unplugged. I would be more successful doing that than I am actively trying to beat a level. I am so bad at shmups. I am just horrible at them. I cannot process things fast enough on the screen to be able to be successful at them, and I want to be better. And it frustrates the hell out of me because I do want to be better at them. I do want to get good at them, but I have a mental block. It's kind of like what happened with Ninja Gaiden. I can't get there for some reason, and it just frustrates me. How do you feel about shmups, especially like 8-bit, 16-bit shmups that are like incredibly difficult, known to be very hard? Are there ones that you think are significantly more forgiving that people should play? Let me know in the comments. Mike Tyson's Punch-Out, or Standard Punch-Out, whichever one you want to go with. I think most of us have experienced the frustration of this game, where we are able to kind of start cruising through the game and finding a rhythm and finding a cadence, because this is a rhythm game. Despite what people will tell you it's a boxing tale. It is not. It is a rhythm game. But there are certain points where your rhythm will be thrown just a smidge, just a touch, and you're gone at that point. You've lost the fight. You're done. You're not coming back from it. And it can be incredibly frustrating because you think you're on your timing, you think you're on your rhythm, you think you've got your cadence down, and you're just not there. And it can be incredibly difficult, and it can be incredibly hard. Like, we all know Tyson's difficult. That's expected. That's understood. But, man, there have been times where I cannot get the cadence to get through Bald Bull, where I can't quite get the bull charge right, and I'm taken out. And it just... I know I can do it. I've done it a million times in the past, but there are days where it does not work. But the game sure does, man. This is one of the best games on the NES. I absolutely love my Tyson's Punch-Out. I think it is a signature sports experience on the NES that everyone needs to play, and I'm sure everyone has at this point. Like, I'm saying that like it's some kind of like mysterious hidden game that no one's ever heard of, but everyone's played Punch-Out, let's be honest. But I love it still. Even though it frustrates the hell out of me at times, I still love it. While a little clunky by modern gameplay standards, the Mark of Kree is something that I don't think enough people pay attention to, because there's some really ambitious stuff going on here. First off, first game ever from San Diego Studio, the guys behind MLB The Show, so thank you for that, because this game is wonderful. And one of the things I really dig about it is that the game makes really smart use of both analog sticks. Normally, in a third-person action game like this, you're going to be using that right stick to move your camera around, but in this case, you use it to lock onto enemies. So when you get into combat, you sweep that right stick, and you're going to have a button icon appear over different enemies, and the button that appears is the one that's going to attack them. It's really, really cool. There's some amazing stuff here. I dig that it's all Polynesian culture based too, which I think is really cool. That is not a setting that happens frequently enough in video games. This game's just amazing. Like, it's an older title, and it's, like I said, it's a little bit clunky by modern standards, but I think if you haven't played the Mark of Kree, you should do yourself a favor and try it out, because there's some really unique gameplay options going on here, and the storyline is really cool too. Most people prefer Ultimate Muscle on the GameCube, and you can't be faulted for that, but I really do enjoy Galactic Wrestling featuring Ultimate Muscle on the PlayStation 2. I think the combat is actually better. I think it works better here than it did on the GameCube. I think it's a little bit closer to things like No Mercy and WrestleMania 2000, as opposed to being a little bit more off the wall on the GameCube version, all while still completely embracing the fact that Kinnikuman is dumb and silly and over the top and weird and crazy. So you get a nice blend of realistic and just insane super moves, but it blends really well. It's a really, really fun title. There are some things missing, I think if the game had sold better in sequels, we would have seen more kind of improvements upon this, but unfortunately the animated series ended, the game didn't sell that well, so we got a one and done. But there's a really memorable roster here. It's a really fun game. The soundtrack is great. Like, having the announcers from the cartoon telling you what's going on in the matches is really fun. And there's some neat gacha stuff as well, where you can actually like unlock little figures and things like that. It's a fun title. Been talking about Katamari a lot on the channel recently. I had it featured in an eShop Hidden Gems video a couple weeks ago, and I'm talking about it here on the PS2 because the original Katamari Damacy from Bandai Namco is one of, in my opinion, the best games ever made. It is such a ridiculously simple concept. You have a ball, you roll it. You are able to pick up things that are smaller than the ball, and as they are picked up, they will expand the size of the ball, so you're able to pick up more and more and more stuff. And that's, like, just core competency looking at it like that. That's a very simple idea, and not necessarily the most exciting or entertaining thing, but when you toss in the overall ridiculousness of the storyline, the memorable characters, the weird look of the world, like it's definitely kind of an abstract view of our planet, and the fact that you are just tossing junk into space to make new stars because your idiot father destroyed the cosmos, you realize you got something really special here. And then you toss in the incredible music as well, and the game is just magical. In my original PS2 games I keep going back to, I feature the Street Fighter Alpha Anthology because I think that might be my favorite fighting game on the console, but one that cannot be ignored by any stretch of the imagination is the brilliant Soul Calibur 3. Now, I've been a fan of the Soul Calibur series ever since I originally played it on the Dreamcast, and being able to play it further and just keep continuing that series to see it grow, to see the mechanics improve, to see the models and just the overall combat mechanics improve is really awesome. And Soul Calibur 3 is a wonderful, wonderful game. Now, it doesn't break the mold or change the kind of overall concept from previous iterations of the Soul Calibur series. It's a pretty tried and true formula, and that's okay, because it just works. It's fun. Sometimes you don't really need to reinvent the wheel with a fighting game. You just need it to be solid, to have memorable characters, to have good environments, and to have solid combat. And that's what you get here. I gotta be getting close to featuring this entire series on the channel at this point. This is Outrun 2006 Coast to Coast. This is an updated, modernized version of the original Outrun 2, and it's awesome. If you have ever played Outrun, you've played this game. Like, you know exactly what it is. There's a branching map that you have to go through. You have to hit your checkpoints to be able to make sure that you're able to keep driving, and you want to get as far as you can. But what this game also does is it includes some different challenges and single-player options as well to give it a little bit more variety, to make it a little bit more interesting, and it works. It's just a fun game. Like, it's not gonna really, knock your socks off with something being really crazy or innovative here. It just makes Outlook modern, and it works incredibly well. If you enjoy the Outrun games, if you liked the arcade original, if you loved it back on the Master System, Outrun 2006 Coast to Coast needs to be on your list. I'm not a huge fan of open world crime-based games, so you're never really going to see a Grand Theft Auto on any list of things that I play, except possibly Vice City or San Andreas, just because I got a problem about playing the bad guy. It's just not a thing I really enjoy, which makes it curious that The Godfather is on this list, because this game is just a slightly different version of Grand Theft Auto, but it's a game that takes the property of The Godfather, the 1972 film, and it makes something really incredible here by expanding upon that storyline. There's so many characters returning from the original storyline. You don't get some of the characters just because the actors didn't license their likeness or their voice, but you get a lot of characters returning to be in this game, and you get to play as a character that was never in the movies or never in the book, but you are kind of running parallel to the story of The Godfather as you play. It's a magnificent game. It's an incredibly deep title with a lot of gameplay options here, and it's something where playing the bad guy is kind of cool because it's a really compelling storyline, and you're in such a historical setting taking place in the 30s and 40s where you're learning about the Corleone family, and it's just really cool, man. I really dig this game. It's so well made. Check this one out if you haven't. If this is one of those games you've avoided just because of the license, you should really play it because it's magnificent. Longtime viewers of the channel will know I'm not necessarily the biggest fan of the Contra series just because I kind of found the older games a little bit frustrating. Not saying that they're bad by any stretch of the imagination. I'd give them a solid B. But for me, one of the ones I really enjoy, and that might seem a little bit curious as to why this is on the list, is Contra Shattered Soldier. This released in 2002, and I think it did some stuff really well. I really liked not having to worry about tracking down power-ups, and I know that takes apart some of the core gameplay mechanics of the original Contra games, but I like just being able to tab between the different ones that are available to me and use them as I see fit. I liked the storyline. I liked being able to just jump in and be able to play and not feel like my soul was being ripped out of my body based on the difficulty of the title. Now, this is still hard, don't get me wrong, but it doesn't make me want to hit anybody hard like Contra does. It's a really fun title, though. It's a really good game. If you haven't played this one, it's definitely worth checking out. It's something that I think is a great kind of build from those original Contra games to bring it into a future generation, or, well, a past generation now in this case, since it's released in 2002, but it's definitely fun. I don't typically get into top-down shooters. Shmups are a very acquired taste for me, and it takes something really special for me to get into it. I like a lot of the ones on the Dreamcast because they're silly and they're weird. And I don't know why I am so drawn to Raiden 3 on the PS2 because it is not silly, it is not weird. It is just a classic sci-fi horizontal shooter, and it just works, man. This game just kicks ass. It's so much fun. Now, it's hard as hell. It's crazy, crazy difficult. It is 1000% a bullet hell, but it's just so smooth. It's silky smooth in presentation, and it makes me wish that I had the ability to flip my monitor, or flip my TV when I'm playing it, to actually have it display and play vertically. Vertical shooter, not a horizontal shooter. I get those mixed up sometimes. But it's such a fun title. It's a really, really solid game, and there's just nothing on this I dislike. It's, again, hard as hell, but if you dig shmups, you should check out Raiden 3. As someone who wasn't really a fan of Final Fantasy X, it took me years to play Final Fantasy X-2 because when I looked at it, I was like, well, it's characters I don't really care about in a world I didn't really enjoy. Why would I want to play this? And I'm so glad I finally did, because the game is significantly better than 10, in my opinion. I think it's lighter, it's breezier, it's more fun. Like, it's a more just positive game overall as far as like a storyline goes and character presentation goes. It's really cool that you get an all-female cast. The characters are memorable and fun. The combat is great. It's classic Final Fantasy combat, so you know what you're getting there with the active turn battle system. And I really enjoy just the setting. I really like that it's a truly open world. You can go any direction you want at any time. It's not as linear as Final Fantasy X was. I just think they fixed a lot of mistakes from the original. This game's spectacular. One of the things that really goes unheralded with the PlayStation 2 generation is how many amazing franchises launched during that generation. One of those is the Burnout series, of which I've loved really every game, but I don't think there's really any discussion necessary to equate which one is the best, because it is Burnout 3 Takedown. Everyone knows that. It did everything right. Like, the problems with things like Burnout Paradise and games of that ilk that came later were they tried to shoehorn an open world in when all anybody wanted was just to run events and wreck stuff. And that's what you got in perfection with Burnout 3 Takedown. It's, simply put, one of the most enjoyable games. It's incredibly approachable. It's incredibly easy to pick up and play. Anyone who has ever played an arcade racing game before understands the appeal of just trying to not only win, but wreck everyone in the field as well. And Burnout delivers that joy in spades. Burnout 3 is one of my favorite PlayStation 2 games. It always has been ever since I first played it, and it's truly one of the best games on the console. I will admit up front that Rockman World 2 is the weakest of the Rockman World or Mega Man Roman numeral games that were released on the Game Boy. That's actually really interesting. It was developed by a team that wasn't familiar with the concept. Capcom just kind of outsourced it and then realized the error of their ways and course corrected from there going forward. But I still enjoy it. Like, it's still a game that I can get into and play and have fun with. Is it the smoothest game in the series? No, not by any stretch of the imagination is it the smoothest game, but I do think it is still fun. It still has that core Mega Man experience. It still feels like a Mega Man game, albeit a hastily assembled Mega Man game. It's the mighty number 9 of Mega Man games, which is still redeemable. It's just not as high quality as other ones in the series. But when I was younger, Mega Man 2 was something that I loved, and it was something that I still enjoyed on the Game Boy, and it's something that I can look at today and still have fun with. And when I mentioned that buying it using the Rockman World series instead of the Mega Man Roman numeral series is the way to go, just look at this example. For price charting, the Mega Man 2 game is loose for $20. The Rockman World 2 game is loose for $10. And that value space only grows the further into the series you get, where they're significantly less expensive in Japan as opposed to the US releases. But let me know, what's your favorite Game Boy Mega Man game? Tell me in the comments. Spoilers, there's going to be a slight Wario theme going forward in this video. This is Super Mario Land 2 6 Golden Coins. This is a game that introduced Wario as kind of the antagonist to Mario, the anti-Mario, if you will. And this game was one that I absolutely loved when I was younger. I liked the original Super Mario Land, but I didn't think it was great. It was a little too far of a departure from what I was used to with the Super Mario Brothers games on the original NES to really get into. Like the bouncy ball thing, I didn't enjoy that mechanic. I don't know. It just never clicked for me. Like, I can play it today and appreciate it, but again, it's not something I love. But Super Mario Land 2 6 Golden Coins was close enough to games that I was familiar with and I enjoyed on the NES with the Super Mario Brothers 3 that I really loved this one. First off, it had all of the familiar power-ups that I was used to, and it introduced the bunny suit, which I thought was great. That gave you something new where you're able to kind of flutter fall using your ears if you jumped up higher and higher. And then you were able to use the overworld map to go into different levels. I think there was 30-something, 35, 36 levels or something like that in the game. And as you went through, if you got all of the 6 golden coins, it would unlock the palace in the middle, and then you fought Wario. I really love this one. I think it's a solid game. It's incredibly well designed. Really cool game. legit, I think this is the greatest packing game ever. The only thing that comes kind of close is Wii Sports, and there's nothing that's ever going to touch Tetris. It is so good. It is still 100% quality to this day. It is still a fantastic game. The design is impeccable. It is one of the greatest designed video games of all time. The music is even wonderful. The gameplay is simple and easy to understand. This was a game that bridged generation gaps. It was something that I just think will never be appreciated enough, despite the fact that it is so ridiculously appreciated by basically the entire gaming landscape. It's a nearly perfect game, and if it isn't perfect, there are such minor quibbles to knock it down that that's the only thing that would keep it from attaining perfection. This is still to this day my most played Game Boy game, and will probably always be my most played Game Boy game because it's that damn good. It took me a really long time to come around on the Kirby series. I was just never a fan. It was never a character that I really got into. I didn't enjoy the games when I was younger. I tried them and just didn't have fun with it. I don't know why. Maybe it was just me not wanting to enjoy the color pink or something like that. I was bound and determined to not like the Kirby games. It wasn't until I did my Kirby ranking video a couple of years ago, link on screen right now, if you want to take a look at that, where I really started to enjoy and appreciate and honestly kind of love the old Kirby games, and I kick myself for not playing more of them when I was younger. Now, any of the Kirby games on the original Game Boy are great, but we're going to go back to the original here with Kirby's Dream Land, because this is where it all started. This is where the entire franchise began. This gives you not every gameplay element that would become familiar to fans of the Kirby franchise going forward, but it gave you enough of them that you can really see where kind of the solid bones were built right here in Kirby's Dream Land. This game is magnificent. It is incredibly fun to play. It is getting a little bit pricey, so if you are able to play this on the Switch Online service, I think it's there, or finding it through other means, do so if you don't have the money to spend, because if you haven't played it, you owe it to yourself to do so. I remember when I saw Gargoyle's Quest when I was younger, I could not understand why I was able to play as that pain-in-the-ass character from Ghosts and Goblins that always killed me on the NES release. And I wasn't really jazzed about trying it out, but this is one that people that I knew who played it when I was younger and seeing it in Nintendo Power said this game was incredible. And when I finally got a chance to play it, I was absolutely blown away by this game. There are two different gameplay styles in this game. There's a top-down kind of world exploration quasi-RPG mode, and then there is the platforming level where you have some really, really incredible gameplay elements at play here. There's the ability to cling to walls. There's the ability to fly or kind of float, which you are able to kind of increase in time the further into the game you go, and you're able to fire projectiles at your enemies. And the gameplay is challenging. It's a really nice kind of addition to the Ghosts and Goblins mythos, and this actually made me appreciate the NES release a little bit more. Notice I said appreciate and not like, because I will never like the NES Ghosts and Goblins. But I do love Gargoyle's Quest, and this is the game that made me love Firebrand as a character. This one is fantastic, and if you can play the sequel or prequel on the NES, it's worth checking out. Gargoyle's Quest 2 is even better than this one. As a big fan of the RC Pro-Am franchise, Super RC Pro-Am was something that I could not wait to get my hands on when it released on the Game Boy. And it is such a spectacular game because this is so true to the original NES release of RC Pro-Am and RC Pro-Am 2 that you're just familiar with it from jump. You know exactly what you need to do. The controls are identical. The gameplay is nearly identical. The only thing that's different is that it's on a smaller screen and you can put it in your pocket and take it with you. It's a brilliant racing game that, rather than going for something that was overly complex or trying to force feed things into a gameplay element, it gave you an accelerate button and a little bit of a drifting mechanic as you go around corners by giving you 8 points of movement on your car instead of 4. So you were able to kind of use physics a little bit to kind of like feather your way around corners and stuff like that. There were power-ups and weapons you were able to collect, awesome things that you could add onto your car that you would find on the track, and of course, you can never go wrong collecting tiles to spell Nintendo. This is such a fantastic game, such a wonderful entry in the RC Pro-Am franchise, and just such a cool experience to be able to stick it in your pocket and bring it with you on the go. It's time for a Stealth Mario game. That's right, Alleyway is, in sheer technicality, a Mario title, because Mario hops into the little paddle capsule thing that hits the ball left and right on the screen at the start of every level. I love that. I absolutely love that in some weird alternate dimension, Mario pilots a paddle. I just think that's great. Now, this is the game here that is responsible for my adoration of Brick Breaker games. I played this before I played Arkanoid on the NES, and that was really kind of my introduction to this entire concept. I might have played Breakout on a 2600 before that, but it's not sticking out of my head that I did. So I'm giving it to this one as the one that kind of started that love of Brick Breaker games. It's still one of my favorite genres today. And it's such a fun game. This is the type of game that is great to either sit down for a long car trip and play, or something that you can just kind of turn the Game Boy on, play a couple of levels, and then power off if you're going to a lunch break or something like that at work. It's a spectacular game. It is deceptively simple. Like, it is as basic can get. You just move back and forth and you bounce a ball back and forth, but there's physics at play here that are actually incredibly well done for this game, when it's basically just where on the paddle did you bounce the ball off of is going to determine the angle. It's like, maybe physics isn't the right word, but it's fun. How's that? It's a really fun game, and I like the challenge it provides. I find it absolutely fascinating that the Wave Race franchise started on the Game Boy. Not on the N64, certainly not on the GameCube. Like, we all know that Blue Storm is a sequel to Wave Race 64. No, it started here on the OG Game Boy, which is why you're getting it in the green screen, because there's just something special about the cream spinach for this one, right? This game is amazing. If you like RC Pro-Am, or like Super RC Pro-Am featured earlier in this game, you're gonna love this one. It's a little bit choppier, it's a little bit less smooth than Super RC Pro-Am or other racing games that might be on the console, but for me, just the kind of novelty of being able to play a jet ski game that has jumps, that has boosts, that has like halfway decent physics for a console that doesn't have the processing power of modern consoles is really fun. I absolutely love this game. This is one that I didn't know about until a couple of years ago. I think I picked this up after a Korg's at a half-price books in Columbus, Ohio. I found it there and I was like, holy crap, I cannot believe this even exists. And I got it home and I played it and I absolutely loved the game. If you love Wave Race 64 or Wave Race Blue Storm, play this one. Start here. See how much the series has evolved. So this one is special to me because, as I mentioned in the intro, Retro Rob gave me my DMG Game Boy that I currently use, that I currently play. He modded it out to give it a brand new screen. It's an IPS screen, so it's beautiful to look at. I don't have to really worry so much about batteries dying every 5 minutes because the screen is sucking up all the power. It's a really solid little system. And with it, he gave me this game here, which is Batman, based on the 1988 Tim Burton film. And this one is really special to me because this was Rob's childhood copy he gave to me to just add to my collection. And I had never played it before he gave it to me. I had played Batman on the NES, but I had never played the Game Boy release, and I am blown away at how good it is. It's not a traditional Batman game. Like, you're shooting enemies. That's not really a thing Batman does, but it's a fun game, and it's a really well-designed game that does have a little bit of a flighty jumping mechanic, as you'll see me fall and die a couple of times as I'm playing through here. But I really enjoy this one. I think it is well-designed. I think it is a faithful... No, that's the wrong word. I think it is a fun interpretation of Tim Burton's Batman, and it's something that I cannot tell you how much I appreciate being added to my collection by Rob. Alright, here's the back half of that slight Wario theming for the rest of the video. This is Wario Land Super Mario Land 3, and this is the first game where we got to have Wario as a protagonist. And also an antagonist, because, I mean, let's be honest, the dude's disgusting. He's a bit of an ass, but boy, is he fun to play as. This was the game that really brought Wario to the forefront. This is the one where you realize that greed can be good, and you were able to just kind of wreck shop and go through these different levels and collect the amazing power-ups that Wario was able to find, and grab as much money as you possibly could, because at the end of the day, that's what Wario is about, is getting rich, and eating garlic. I absolutely love this game. This is one of the few Game Boy games that when I started collecting retro games again, that I said, I need to get this complete in box. And I was able to kind of piecemeal it together, but I was never able to find a copy of the game at a convention for a reasonable price. It was something that was just always out of the price range, like loose, just ridiculous prices on these carts. And my buddy Thor came through for me and found me a copy up in Minneapolis and sent it down to me. And because of him, I now have my complete in box copy of this game. A treasure I will never, ever get rid of. Starting off with Yoshi's Island. And yeah, this was one that I took a long time to come around on because I hate crying Mario. Absolutely hate it. I think it is one of the absolute worst things that Nintendo has ever done to release that pox upon humanity. But I have to forgive them because the game is so good. First off, this is the best looking 2D Mario game ever made. I'll say that right now. And some could argue that this is a Yoshi game. I mean, it is a Yoshi game, but Mario is a key part. So I'm saying it counts. It's my video. I don't care. I think that there's some really incredible design work here, some amazing sound. Music is fantastic. Like it is just, it's such a signature experience and such a wonderful game overall that I can't help but love it because it's so ridiculously goddamn charming that I can't help but have fun with it. Even when Mario is screaming and wailing and crying, it's still something that is a wonderful game. It builds upon things that we don't see in other Mario games. Like this is a unique experience and something that we've had some returns to it with different releases or different iterations of Yoshi's Island, but it's not like it's a core mechanic that we've seen encountered in other Mario games. It's just well made, it's just really fun, and it's just a brilliant overall design. So when it comes to Super Mario Bros. 3D games specifically, there's a lot of great ones out there. You can extol the virtues of Super Mario 64. You can talk about the wonders of Super Mario Galaxy. You can even look at something like Super Mario Odyssey, which I adore, and say that they are all the best. And you're probably right. But my favorite is Super Mario Sunshine, and there's a lot of reasons for that. One, this was the first 3D Mario game I ever really played and enjoyed. I never liked Super Mario 64. Never a game that really connected for me. But Mario Sunshine did something special. It dared to be different. It dared to take a risk. It tried something new. It gave Mario an accessory, like Flood, as opposed to just having him run and jump around all the time. It was something new and exciting and different and fun and weird, right? Like it was just a bizarre game. I loved the setting of Delfino Island. I loved the music. I loved the look of the game. I loved the level layouts. It was just, for me, kind of the perfect 3D Mario experience. Now, Odyssey has eclipsed it, obviously, at this point. And I honestly, as much as I took a long time to get into Galaxy and Galaxy 2, I think, obviously, those are better games as well. But I always come back to Sunshine, and I'll always love it. I'm not gonna lie, I had put together this list and didn't recognize that I didn't have a Mario Kart game on here. So, unfortunately, New Super Mario Bros. Wii got the axe here in favor of Mario Kart DS. Because Mario Kart DS is my absolute favorite Mario Kart game. It was a toss-up between 8 Deluxe, DS, and Double Dash, but I think at the end of the day, DS does some stuff that is not only just incredibly ambitious for the title, it's also something where we see kind of a signature Nintendo experience involved here. Because the most important thing that DS did was it offered DS download play for anyone that had a DS near there to be able to play the game as well. They didn't have to have the cartridge. They just had to be willing to download the temporary files to be able to play it. So being able to play this game in a room full of people against your friends online and really only needing one cart to do so was kind of incredible. It was a magical experience and just so incredibly fun. This is something when I worked at Electronic Arts, we used to play this game all the time when we were working on Madden 09 on the DS. We would take our lunch breaks, we would hop into the conference room, and we would play Mario Kart DS and just have a blast. It's one of my signature memories of working there, one of my favorite things I ever did. It's something that to this day, I think is still a fantastic experience overall. This game's amazing. I don't think you can go wrong with either version of this game, whether you're playing the original SNES Classic or you're playing the brand new remaster on the Nintendo Switch. Super Mario RPG Legend of the Seven Stars is spectacular. It's all of the best parts of Nintendo and all the best parts of Square mashed up to make this just incredibly fun, unique, and wonderful role-playing game featuring our favorite plumber, and all his friends, and some new ones that we've never seen before, like Gino and Mallow. It was a truly remarkable game, and it was something that I remember when it debuted and just being absolutely blown away, not only by the concept. Like, I never had the idea that Mario could be in an RPG cross my mind. It wasn't something I ever thought of, but to see it fully realized and to see it fully fleshed out by the amazing team at Square and Nintendo was something that I just had to play, and it's something that I still love to this day. It is such a truly just charming and wonderful game that is almost a landmark in the Mario universe. It really is. Like, so much stuff stems from what happened in this game. Like, we wouldn't have the Paper Mario games without this one. I don't think we'd have the Mario and Luigi games without this one. It's an important title. Super Mario World, I think, is the best 2D Mario game ever made. I like more games more than it, but for me, this is the best one, and I'll explain that here in a second. My favorite 2D Mario game is Super Mario Bros. 2. I thought it was incredibly unique. I thought it was different. I thought it was exciting. There's also the emotional tie to it where it was the first game I ever purchased with my own money that I had earned and wasn't just given. It was something that has a deep emotional bond to me. But when I look at it objectively, Super Mario World is unbelievably amazing. The level designs are fantastic. The graphics are wondrous. For something to look this good while being a launch title for a brand new console is kind of remarkable. The gameplay is fantastic. It introduced Yoshi, which, I don't really care about that so much, but the gameplay with Yoshi offered something different. Kind of like my opinion of Super Mario Sunshine. They took a risk. They tried something different here, and I think they should be commended for that, because not only did they create what is, to me, the signature Super Nintendo experience for Mario, it's the signature Mario experience overall as far as 2D games go. There's two versions of this game. Both of them are fantastic. The one in particular we're talking about today, though, is Mario & Luigi Superstar Saga plus Bowser's Minions on the Nintendo 3DS. I love these games. I absolutely love them. Like, the concept of the Mario & Luigi series is something that I just think is wonderful. Having the different face buttons do different things for different characters, the different abilities you're able to find, the RPG elements where you're buying the items and the weapons and the armor and stuff like that to upgrade Mario and Luigi is right up my alley. It is just a perfect hallmark and perfect throwback to what we experienced in Super Mario RPG, and it just works. They're wickedly funny, uproariously funny at times. There's fantastic crossovers and callbacks to other games, like Professor Egad shows up. He's from Luigi's Mansion. It's just a really wonderful experience from top to bottom. And this 3DS version is a beautiful remaster of a classic game on the GBA. It just works. The Bowser's Minion stuff is fantastic as well. Do not overlook this one. If you've only played the GBA original, you need to play this. There's an awful lot of Mario sports games you could put on this list that are fantastic. And while I want to include stuff like the baseball games and the golf games and the tennis games, Super Mario Strikers is the top tier for me. This is such a just fantastic title, and I'm so excited that it's offered now on the Nintendo Switch with the Nintendo Classics Online Edition, because this game is magnificent, and it's something that people need to play. It's a perfect example of taking a core concept of football or soccer and turning it into something that is approachable, enjoyable, fun, and downright silly, with the different power-ups and the characters that you're able to find. Like, the walls are electrified. That happens in real soccer, right? The game is so much fun, though. Like, the over-the-top animations, the really solid soccer mechanics throughout it are fantastic, and it's just a really signature experience for Mario sports titles. Like I said, you can't go wrong with any of them. Mario 3-on-3 Hoops Basketball is another one that I really enjoy, but the one I come back to the most often is Strikers. Our third RPG game on this list is Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door, and I think this is quite possibly my favorite GameCube game. I think there is something truly remarkable and magical about everything in this game, whether it's the different characters that you're able to recruit to help Mario out on his adventure, the just stunning graphical design and overall quality that is presented through this title, or even just the incredible remaster on the Nintendo Switch. The Thousand-Year Door is, to me, the signature GameCube experience. The gameplay mechanics are solid and familiar. Like, if you have played Mario RPG or you played the original Paper Mario on the N64, you're going to know how this game plays. You understand the timing elements that are in play, the different abilities every character has, the fun interactions and the like just ridiculous dialogue and things like that happen in these games. They're things that everyone anticipates and enjoys when they play these titles if they like RPGs. It's just the best one as far as I'm concerned. Like, this is just such a touchstone landmark title that when they announced the remaster for the Switch, I already own the GameCube version. I don't need it. But when they announced it for the Switch, I immediately said I was picking it up because it's that good of a title. Love the remaster, but I love the original too. This is my favorite Mario game. I think I mentioned that earlier. This is Super Mario Bros. 2, aka Doki Doki Panic on the Famicom Disk System. And this is just, like I said, they dared to try something new. They dared to be different. They brought over something that was unique and unexpected and just a far enough departure from the original Super Mario Bros. That it's truly enjoyable. The different characters having the different abilities is something that we see still as a natural element of the Mario games in the 2D environment going forward, and 3D, actually, when you look at 3D Land and 3D World. The different level designs and the different characters that were brought in were things that we kept seeing going forward. Like, we still see the vegetables and things like that in Captain Toad Treasure Tracker. We see Shy Guys and Sniffits and Ninjas and stuff like that in classic Mario games. Birdo is a regular participant in pretty much anything involving Mario. I love this game. I love the different levels. I love the layout. I love the gameplay. I love the music. There's nothing about this game I don't enjoy. It is my personal favorite Mario game. It's not the best, but it's my personal favorite. There's just something about Bust-A-Move, man. Like, it's such a great idea for a game, and it just executes so perfectly. Like, I'm familiar with Bub and Bob from Bubble Bobble on the NES, like I'm sure most of you are, but I didn't love that game growing up. It wasn't until I was much older that I really, really started to love it. But man, when I discovered Bust-A-Move, that was another story entirely. I loved everything about that game. Just a perfect pairing of classic characters and simple puzzle solving while still being mind-numbingly difficult at times. My wife and I actually discovered it with a Puzzle Bobble release on PC back in the early 2000s, and that blew our minds. And then we found it at an arcade in Orlando at Rocky's Replay, and the rest was history. Still one of my favorite games to this day. I think the original Konami Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles arcade game might be one of those games that is just bedrock, that is responsible for me liking a particular genre, that still is reflective to this day. Because without Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, I don't know that I would love beat-em-ups as much as I do. One of my favorite genres. But that love affair started with the arcade version of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles because my mind was absolutely blown the first time I saw it. Had no idea a video game could look that good. It looked like the animated series come to life. It felt like the animated series come to life. And it was something that I think any of us that were fans of the Turtles back in the 80s just knew how amazing and incredible and important this game was. And I love the NES port, don't get me wrong, but man, that arcade version, it's just tip-top, man. It's just one of the greatest games of all time, and something that even today, like, I know a lot of people love Turtles in Time, and I won't fault you for that. I like the original one better. I just think it plays better. I think it controls better, and for me, you dance with the one that brought you. I love Burger Time, but Burger Time does not love me. I think this might be the most difficult arcade game ever for me. For me. Personally, like, I know there's people out there that are wizards at this game, and y'all astound me, and you got your powers from an illicit pact with the devil. But for me, this is just one of those games that I love the concept, I love the gameplay. I'm just bad at it, but that's okay. Like, arcade games aren't meant to be mastered right away. I don't think. I think this is something where, you know, it fulfills this design. It wants you to keep pumping quarters in. It wants you to keep going. It wants you to fail. It wants you to fail repeatedly until you can earn that success. And I get that immensely with Burger Time. I absolutely do. I think it's a brilliant title. I think it is one of the best designed arcade games ever. I like it a hell of a lot more than I like Peter Pepper's Ice Cream Factory. I just think it's fun, man. Like, I think it's just a well-made game. And I think the simplicity of the look of the game really disguises well the overall complexity of the game you're trying to play. I think it's fantastic. And I gotta have at least one SNK fighter on here, and that is why we have the ACA Neo Geo release on the Nintendo Switch of Guru Mark of the Wolves. This is a direct arcade port. Now, there are versions of this on home consoles. This did release on the Dreamcast as well, but the arcade version of this game is really, really incredible. And the Switch port of it is a faithful translation of that arcade game. The gameplay is wonderful. This stars an older Terry Bogard and descendants of some of the characters from the core Fatal Fury series. You have signature SNK fighting experiences and animations, and I think most importantly the animations here, because SNK was always a more fluid animation system, to me at least, than Street Fighter was. I mean, your mileage may vary on that. It could just be my eyes playing tricks on me, but I absolutely love this one. I think it has one of the best storylines, one of the best fighting mechanics overall, and just like from top to bottom, I think this is just a wonderful fighting game experience. I don't know how many more times I can talk about Super Off-Road on this channel than I'm going to, but I'm going to talk about it again because this might be my favorite arcade cabinet of all time. It's one that immediately gets played if I see it. There was a cabinet at PGX. I played it right away. I have no regrets in doing so. It's just a wonderful game. Like, this is one of my favorite racing experiences ever. I like it on every version I've ever played, whether it's the NES version, the arcade version, the SNES version. Even the Game Boy version, which does struggle at times, has its merits and has its charm. But the arcade version, man, with the free spinning wheels and just the ability to play 4-player all at once on one machine, it's incredible. It's a magnificent game. It's fun. It's challenging. It's clever. It's everything you would want in an arcade game. This footage is from the Marvel vs. Capcom fighting collection that Capcom released on the Nintendo Switch, and this is Marvel vs. Capcom 2, my all-time favorite two-dimensional fighter, one that I never miss, one that I never pass up, because I do think it is the single finest 2D fighting game ever made. I love it. I think it is an absolutely brilliant combination of amazing properties between Marvel and Capcom. There's memorable characters in it. There's memorable stages. It is just literally one of my all-time favorite video games, and something that I never miss the chance to play. I love having it at home. I love being able to have the arcade port, but there's just something about playing in an arcade, slapping quarters down on the table to be the next guy to go, and being able to play against your friends or against someone that's just running the room. Love it. Absolutely fantastic game. One of the greatest of all time. I think when companies are brave enough to use an alternative controller option, they should really be applauded for it. And Crystal Castles is a game that I know about because of my friend Corey, and one that I hadn't really played much when I was a kid, but in my mid-20s, I discovered it, and I was able to play it, and I love the fact that this thing controls via a trackball. I think that's impressive. I think it's kind of brilliant. I think it's incredibly fun. The gameplay is very simple. You're just collecting dots, and you're moving your bear around the maze to collect all the dots and the honey and the magic hats and stuff like that to clear the level to move on to the next one. And there's a challenge there. There's something inherently difficult built in because you are using a trackball and not a control stick. But it's so much fun, and it's so well made, and it's such an incredible experience from top to bottom that I just can't help but love it. It's a little dated by today's terms, but I don't really care. It's still fun. WWF WrestleFest was one of the games that I really enjoyed that was kind of the rare sports experience in an arcade. Like, there was plenty of Neo Geo sports games that I never really got a chance to play until I was significantly older, so I don't include those here, but WrestleFest was one that was at the local A&P up in Massachusetts, so I would play it every time I would bop down there to go get a candy bar or something like that. The game was fun. It was an enjoyable experience that was just well designed. It featured wrestlers that I was familiar with, that I loved. Jake the Snake Roberts was in it, so I was always going to play as Jake the Snake, as you can see here. It's either Jake the Snake or Mr. Perfect. Those were the two I constantly played as. I just thought it was a brilliant game, and I thought it was something that really lent itself well to kind of like Ms. Pac-Man being a timeless experience. Like, we see Retromania Wrestling borrowing heavily from the WrestleFest experience, and I think that's kind of brilliant because they're trying to emulate that kind of overall joy of playing a game like that. And this is Street Fighter Alpha 3. I think this is the best of the Street Fighter titles. I think it has the most memorable roster. I think it has the best controls, the best gameplay, one of the best looks, some of the best music, and one of the best challenges available to any kind of Street Fighter game. I like the different isms you're able to use, so you can actually kind of customize the game to your stylings as much as you want to. The gameplay is solid. The characters are wonderful. It's just To me, this is a perfect fighting game. Like, as much as I love MVC2, which we talked about earlier, this one I think is probably the most complete Street Fighter game, just core Street Fighter experience. I love this one. What's your favorite Street Fighter arcade experience? Let me know in the comments. You know, I honestly don't think there's a bad version of this game. This is Pac-Mania. This is my favorite version of Pac-Man, and I think it's brilliant. It's 3D Pac-Man. You have a jump built in, so you're able to leap over the ghosts and stuff like that, which is such an interesting mechanic to add to a traditional kind of steeplechase maze racer that it just makes it fun. Like, it just works. Everything about this game is great. I love the kind of like powers that are added to the ghosts to make them a little more difficult. I like the level designs. I like that you don't get to see the entire map at all times, so you kind of got to use your memory a little bit and kind of remember where you need to go and be quick on the draw to avoid the ghosts by jumping over them. It's just, I think it's one of the best experiences of Pac-Man ever made. I really do. I have a blast with it. I think it's fantastic, and I just wish more people played it. Like, it's one of those games where I'll say, oh, I love Pac-Mania, and people will be like, which one is that? I don't know which one that is, and here it is. It's wonderful. I know a lot of people don't like the Simpsons arcade game nowadays for one reason or another. I don't know why they don't like it. I just know that they don't. Because when I rated it really highly in my Simpsons ranking video, link on screen right now, I kind of got taken to task for it. And that's fine. You don't have to like the games I like. That's totally cool. I like that gaming is a tapestry and we all have different threads to add to the hobby. But for me, it's still a game I have fun with. It's something that I enjoy. It's something that's silly. It's lighthearted. It's challenging. It's a quarter muncher, absolutely. But that doesn't make it a bad game to me. It just means that it's a little bit more difficult. It's a throwback. And it stars one of my favorite pop culture families. I think it's fun. I do think it's a good game. I think it's enjoyable. And I love playing it whenever I see it at an arcade. I know most people would probably choose the original Donkey Kong, but for me, Donkey Kong Jr. was always my favorite. And I went reverse on this one. I actually originally played this on the NES and then eventually played it in arcades. One of my favorite things about Game Dad's house is that he has a Donkey Kong Jr. arcade machine in his basement that I love to play on. And I also love to be reminded how bad I am at the game every time I play it, because I am atrocious. But that's kind of a running theme for me with video games, is I'm bad at them. Just love them anyway. Donkey Kong Jr. for me, though, was just significantly more interesting than the original Donkey Kong. I liked the climbing mechanic. I liked going slow up 1, but fast up 2, slow down 2, fast up 1. I liked the different level designs and the different tasks that you had to achieve on each one. Just thought it was a clever game. I thought it was fun, and I thought it was better than the original. The Wild West Cowboys of Moo Mesa was based on a failed animated series that was on Fox, I want to say. And of course we got a video game for it, because everything had a video game back in the 90s, and I loved everything about it, and I still do. I liked the cartoon. I thought the cartoon was clever. I thought it was a neat idea, but the video game was just something else, man. It's a little bit like Sunset Riders. I'll correct that. It borrows heavily from Sunset Riders, but instead of just being cowboys, you are cowboys. You're cows. And it's a run and gun shoot 'em up with some really fun mechanics where you're able to jump up and down on the screen, just like in Sunset Riders. You pick up power-ups, you use them against bosses, and there's big fights at the end. It's just a wonderful game and something that I will always dump quarters in if I find it. I am so bad at Congo Bongo, and this is not one that I really ever knew about until I heard Riggs talk about it in one of his videos. And I found it in an arcade, and I played it, and I loved it, and I am so inept at this video game. And it's just one of those games where I'll put the quarter in, and I'll be like, well, I just pissed away 25 cents, but I'll still play it, and I'll still have fun. As you can see from the footage, I'm awful. I am patently terrible at this game. I will say much better on an arcade cabinet than I am emulating it via MAME at home, but it's one that I just think there's some inherent charm here, and something that, Sega made great arcade games. This is one of them. It's a lot of fun. I actually discovered this one in the same CD-ROM that I discovered Bust a Move on. This is Money Puzzle Exchanger, another puzzle game for the Neo Geo, and this is such an incredible game. So the idea is you need to create chains of different monetary values to add up to another value to be able to clear them out. So it's like a reverse Tetris, I guess, for lack of a better term. I'm sure there's another puzzle game that this is kind of a clone of that I'm not familiar with. Let me know in the comments down below. But I enjoy the hell out of this game. I think it's incredibly clever. It is aggressively Japanese at times, but it is a really, really fun game overall. I think it is a wonderful, just kind of difference in puzzle gaming in an arcade machine that I hadn't expected to enjoy as much as I do. I absolutely love this one. I mean, if I got the Wild West Cowboys of Moo Mesa on here, I might as well put Sunset Riders on here as well. This is one of my favorite games. I love this on the Genesis, and I love it on the Super Nintendo, and it's somehow even better in arcades. This is a really creative way to tell a Wild West story while being absolute nonsense and ridiculous and just a living cartoon. It just works, man. Like, it is so much fun. It is so well designed. The music in the game is great. The gameplay is spectacular. The challenge is ever present. And I love all the different stuff that happens in the game, like the different dynamite that gets thrown at you, the stampedes you have to jump on top of and run alongside or run along top of, the train chases and things like that, where you have to avoid things that are flying at you. It's a series of Wild West tropes done in an overly aggressive anime style, and it just works. While Pac-Mania is my favorite Pac-Man game, Ms. Pac-Man deserves recognition as well as being probably the best of the traditional Pac-Man experiences. The original Pac-Man was fine, and the rest of them, the kind of the weird offshoot Pac-Man, are okay as well, but Ms. Pac-Man kind of perfected everything. The game was fast, it was fun, it looked fine for what it was. Like, I don't want to say it looked good because there wasn't really much to look at, but the gameplay was brilliant. It's still fun to this day. Like, it is still something that is a blast to pop a quarter into, just stand in front of the screen and have fun with. It's timeless. And I think that's the best compliment you can give a video game, is that it is timeless. It's something that every generation can enjoy. Like, I've played it. I've seen my grandfather had played it back when he was still alive, and I know my kid has played it. So there's a generational journey there of a game that is just excellent, and that says a lot. You can't go wrong with either of the Dungeons & Dragons beat-em-ups. You can't go wrong with Tower of Doom or Shadows of Mystara. They're both wonderful. Just happen to have footage of Tower of Doom here. They're both great, though. Play them both. They're both fantastic. Because this takes a core hack-and-slash experience. So this is like a Golden Axe or something like that. Like beat-em-ups with weapons. You guys understand what I'm talking about here. And it adds role-playing elements to it because you're able to collect items that will power you up, that are going to give you extra abilities as you play. You're able to kind of improve your character as you go. There's signature D&D races and challenges and things like that in this game. Like, it is just a wonderful top-to-bottom experience. And one of the really cool things as well is that they collected this. Capcom collected this and released this on Steam, and I want to say the Wii U and possibly the PS3 and the 360 back in the mid-2010s. And it's worth picking up if you're able to. I don't know if they're still on sale. I happen to own it on Steam, so it's something that I love. But man, these games are just wonderful, fantastic, fun, and just a great arcade experience. It is time for one of the most signature arcade games ever made, and that is Q*bert. And Q*bert makes the list even though I am horrific at this game. I have never been good at Q*bert. I have never been successful at getting any kind of deep into this game. I am just flat out awful. And I don't care, because I still think it's fun. I still think it's fantastic. It is one of those arcade experiences. I remember I went to a birthday party in 4th or 5th grade, and they had it at Chuck E. Cheese, and I'd never played it before. And I remember when I died and the thump happened at the bottom, because that kind of like plunger or beater from a pinball table was in there to play the sound of Q*bert hitting the ground and splatting. That blew my mind. Absolutely just astounded me that this was something like, that was like 4th dimensional, and I adored it. It's still fun to this day. I'm still awful at it, but I still love it. X-Men came in a lot of varieties, but the best one I think we can all agree was the massive double screen 6-player version of X-Men, where you were able to just dive in and have so much fun. It was built to basically advertise the Pride of the X-Men, which was anticipated to become this massive success for Marvel, and it flopped. It failed miserably. So rather than getting this new animated series and kind of this obscure beat-em-up arcade game, we got this incredible arcade game and kind of this obscure animated movie that failed. And instead, we had to wait for a few more years before X-Men the Animated Series debuted. But in the meantime, we could go to the arcades, We could ply this game with quarters, and we could play as Colossus, as Wolverine, Cyclops, Storm, Dazzler, and Nightcrawler, and just have an incredible experience. To this day, this is one of the best beat-em-ups ever, and one that I still use as a measuring stick against other beat-em-ups when they're released, because this one is just top of the charts for me. I played this when I was at Up Down in Minneapolis. The machine was in terrible shape. I still had fun. I couldn't jump. I couldn't turn around to fight people behind me. I still had fun. That's how good the game is. It may or may not have been my ulterior motive to feature a game I worked on this list, but forgive me for that, because I do think Henry Hatsworth in The Puzzling Adventure is one of the single greatest platformers you've never played. This released on the Nintendo DS, and it does a blend of both an amazing platformer and a fantastic Match 3 game that works on both the top and bottom screens of the DS. Now, the bottom screen is going to constantly be moving, and as the blocks slide up the screen, they will start putting enemies into the platforming level on the top screen, and you're able to hot swap between the two of them by pressing the X button. You do have a gauge, so you won't have unlimited time in the puzzle section, but you will be able to get down there and match different blocks to eliminate the enemies. But if they do get into the top level, you're going to be fine, because the platforming aspects of the game are fantastic. There's tons of power-ups that you're able to get for Hatsworth. You're able to go through and use your different weapons and assemble a giant robot that runs on T and Steam, and it is just fantastic. Like, legitimately one of my favorite games I've ever played, and probably my proudest moment from working in the video game industry is Henry Hatsworth in The Puzzling Adventure on the Nintendo DS. One of the best mascots ever from the TurboGrafx 16, this is Bonk from Bonk's Adventure. The little caveman with a head made of stone that just headbutts the living hell out of his enemies, rages out when he eats meat, I think. It's meat that makes him mad, if I'm remembering correctly. And it's just a fantastic game. Now, we've seen Bonk all over the place. He was on the NES. We've seen him ported onto the Wii Virtual Console and things like that. It's just a franchise and just a character that I really enjoy. And the games are really well designed. The level design is fantastic. The different abilities that Bonk has, like climbing up a wall with his teeth, that is so creative, and it just looks so incredible on the TurboGrafx. Talk about a console that is just underappreciated in modern audiences. It's kind of forgotten, and that's a shame. One of my goals this year is to actually pick up a TurboGrafx, because I really appreciate it, and it's something where I think I'm going to make it happen this year. I don't know how, but I think I'm going to. Bonk is such a great game, though. This is such a wonderful game that just holds up perfectly well, and it's something that just plays as beautifully today as it did back then. There's no real sense of it feeling aged or just like over the hill or anything like that. It just works. Bonk is awesome. Not a console I talk about very often on this channel, but this is Gex on the 3DO from Panasonic, and this is such a clever, fun little game. Now, it's weird, and it's a little bit janky, I'm not going to lie to you, and this might be stretching the phrase holds up a little bit too much, but I'm going with it, because I do want to cover a variety of more consoles on this channel, rather than just giving you kind of the same 5 all the time. And I actually do really enjoy Gex. I really do enjoy it on the 3DO as well, because I think it runs incredibly well. The sound quality is fantastic, the animations in the game are great, the look is wonderful. It really takes advantage of the power of the 3DO and puts out something that's really fun. It can be a little bit grating, the voices can be a little bit much, and it can be a little bit janky with the way the camera moves, but it's not bad by any stretch of the imagination, and after you play for about 5 minutes, you're used to the weird jankiness, and it's just a really fun title. There was a lot of sequels to Gex, and we saw it on various consoles, but it got its start on the 3DO, and I love it there. Any opportunity I can talk about the brilliance that is Monster in My Pocket from Konami, I'm going to take the opportunity. This is based on a toy line from the late 80s or early 90s, and it was a little bit like Kinnikuman or Muscle Men, where you had these tiny little figures that you were able to collect. They didn't have any posability, they didn't have any articulation, they were just little rubber toys, and they were amazing. I absolutely loved them. So to get a video game that was not only based on a toy line I loved, but was actually really good, was awesome. You can play as 2 different characters. You can play as the vampire, which is Dracula, or the monster, which is Frankenstein, and you go through fighting characters from the toy line, which I think is incredible. It's really awesome. The levels have a really good design and are frequently challenging and really fun. The boss fights are excellent.
The graphics in the game look spectacular and actually hold up really well to this day. Like, I'm just impressed by the visuals on this game. Really enjoy this one. Monster in My Pocket is absolutely fantastic, and if you haven't played it, it's well worth checking out. I do think this is probably the strangest game on this list. This is Go Go Beckham Adventure on Soccer Island, and I am not a David Beckham fan. I am not a huge soccer fan. I do support West Ham, but I'm not someone who is going to say they are a diehard of all things football, but I do really like this game, and it's such a creative way to blend sports and platforming into an awesome title. So you play as a character that uses a ball as a weapon, and you're fighting monsters on Soccer Island. It is not necessarily something that's going to be terribly deep. It doesn't really have a fantastically rich storyline. It's just, go. You have to, kill Mr. Woe, and that's basically it. He stole the precious things on the island, and you need to get him back. It's such a fun game, and such a creative use of David Beckham as a character. It's really neat because you actually get to use different football skills. You get to kick the ball at the enemy to defeat them. You can also level up different attributes. It's pretty awesome. I really, really do enjoy this one. It is a weird game. It is decidedly strange, but sometimes weird is what you need, and this one definitely qualifies. On a handheld that is just replete with fantastic platformers, this one stands a little bit apart from other ones by being uniquely itself, and you can't complain about that. I think my favorite platformer released on the original PlayStation was Tomba from Whoopee Camp. This was a game that initially captivated me because of its advertising campaign, because you never really saw characters featuring pink as a main color unless you were, a huge Bret the Hitman Hart fan, which who among us wasn't. But Tomba was a character that was a caveman. He had shocking pink hair. The clay design of the ads was really neat. It looked a little bit different than what you normally saw in video game magazines. And it was just something that I was really, really excited to try out. So when it finally released and I picked it up, I got an amazing platformer. It was a really solid game that had some incredible level design, some really funny writing, and just brilliant gameplay. The look of the game was wonderful. It was pixel art on the PlayStation, so it just sang. It was crisp as hell. The music in the game was great. There were some really entertaining different events that you were able to have happen and different abilities that you're able to earn for Tomba that just worked. We actually got a release of this recently on modern consoles from Limited Run Games, and it's really cool to see it still observed and still loved to this day. The original is my favorite. There was a sequel as well, but you can't go wrong with either of them or the re-release on modern consoles because it's just such a phenomenal game and just such a different take and different interpretation of what a platformer can be. Rivaling Go Go Beckham, this one, Kabuki Quantum Fighter on the NES, is up there for the weird value because it's not just a traditional platformer, it's a game where you play as a cyber kabuki performer that goes into a computer to fight viruses with your hair. Yes, it's a very strange game, but boy is it brilliant. It is an absolutely fantastic title that has some really challenging platforming moments, some great combat, and it has a really unique look that kind of sets itself apart from other NES platformers. It works just incredibly well. I love it. Now, this was actually based on a film called Zapang for the Famicom release, but since that didn't come out over here, they put it out as just Kabuki Quantum Fighter, which is, again, a strange, strange game. But I really do love it. You're able to collect different chips to give you different weaponry, which I think is really neat. It allows you to have a little bit more of a unique playstyle as opposed to just running and slashing with your hair. You actually get some different power-ups, which I think is really cool. It's a fantastic game, and it's not one that I hear talked about often enough. I really do adore this game. If you're looking for a fun and inexpensive NES title, Kabuki Quantum Fighter is a great platformer to add to your collection. One of the games that I don't hear enough people talk about often on YouTube is Rocket Knight Adventures. Now, while people are quick to point to games like Super Mario Bros. 3 or Mega Man or Sonic as fantastic platformers, and rightfully so, those games deserve all the accolades they receive, I need to call out Rocket Knight Adventures because it is legitimately one of the best platformers on the Sega Genesis. First off, it's from Konami, and when this was released, Konami actually had a really good reputation of excellent video games. It has some really ambitious gameplay elements where it's not just a traditional side-scrolling platformer, you actually have locomotion changes where Sparkster is able to blast off and shoot up into the sky or into more difficult to reach areas.
The animations in the game are fantastic. The look of the game is wonderful. The music in the game is also really good. Like, it hits every single note, and it's one of those games when I look back at the 16-bit generation, specifically my time on the Genesis, Rocket Knight is one of those games that just stands out to me and just makes me appreciate that phenomenal generation of video games. If you've never played this one, it's available to this day. Like, it released on the Switch as an eShop release earlier this year, or earlier last year. It's a new year now. But it is a wonderful title, and it's just a fantastic gameplay experience. Check it out if you haven't played it. No, not the hellaciously expensive one. We are going here with the Flintstones, The Rescue of Dino and Hoppy on the NES. I really enjoy the Flintstones games. I think there's something very creative here that Taito did that isn't really realized by this franchise anywhere else, because this is kind of where they died a death. Like, we got these games and we got Burger Time at Bedrock, but that's pretty much it as far as Flintstones games goes. And it's a shame because Taito really had something magical here. Like, they managed to capture the feel, the distinct feel of a Flintstones cartoon in video game form. Whether it was the locomotion of how Fred moved, the way he ducked by dropping his head down into his shirt instead of like crouching over. It was just a really creative and really amazing way to embrace that franchise, embrace that IP, and make something that worked, both bridging the gap from that 1960s cartoon series to a 1991 video game. It's a fantastic title. Now, Surprise at Dinosaur Peak is also fantastic, but it is, you know, you have to like sell a kidney or put out a second mortgage on your house, and you don't really want to do that because that's way too much money. And while this one here is a little bit pricey, it's not nearly as expensive as that one, and it's such a fun title, and it's just a really perfect way of showing why the NES was so great at platformers. Don't look any further than The Rescue of Dino and Hoppy. Launching this whole discussion with one of the greatest puzzle games on the NES, this is Adventures of Lolo. Now, I do want to point out that one of the qualifiers for this video, we ain't talking Tetris. Tetris is too easy, man. Tetris is way too easy to include on a list like this. Everyone knows Tetris, everyone's played Tetris, everyone loves Tetris, so we're going to avoid it. But Adventures of Lolo, now that is a creative game. So this is, take a character that's a little bit Kirby, he's just blue and not pink, and you are manipulating him and moving him around a level, and you're able to have a limited number of shots in order to eliminate enemies that are on the screen. And that can be as low as 0 depending on what level you're on. And what you need to do is you need to go around, collect the different hearts, but when you collect all the hearts, that's when the enemies are going to activate. And you're going to have to avoid them in order to complete the level. Once you gather the treasure chest at the end, after the enemies are activated, they'll be eliminated, and you'll be able to move on to the next one. It's deceptively challenging. Like, looking at it at its surface, like a top-down bird's eye view, it looks incredibly simple, but the more you play it and the further into the game you get, the puzzles get increasingly more difficult. The challenge escalates and just ramps up and ratchets up continuously, but the game itself is wonderful and charming and fantastic, and it's an absolute home run from HAL Laboratories. I wish I had played Mole Mania when it originally launched, because I think this would have been an all-timer game for me. I absolutely love it now. And it's plain to see why. It's a Shigeru Miyamoto game, but it's free of the constraints of what has to be in a Mario title. So he was really creative and really free to do whatever he wanted. And what we got was a really interesting puzzle game where you play as a mole, and you have to dig under the earth to find your way through different mazes to make your way through the levels. It's great. You're able to trap enemies, you're able to roll them over with giant boulders and stuff like that. It's a very clever game. And to this day, it's something that, for an original Game Boy game, still plays incredibly solidly. You can see all the benchmarks of creative Miyamotoism here. The characters are great, the music is great, the level designs are solid. It is super fun. Absolutely love Mole Mania. Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo is a lot like Puyo Puyo, and I have no complaints about that because Puyo Puyo could very easily be on this list as well, but I'll be honest with you, I had never really played that until Puyo Puyo Tetris on the Switch, so my introduction to that type of gameplay was here with Super Puzzle Fighter 2 Turbo. And what the game is it's a tile matching game. So as you grow the different colored gems that are on screen, you're going to gain more points. And as you play, those gems that you clear out are going to fly over to the other side of the screen to impact your opponent that you're facing off against. One of the things I really like about this is that it features all of the classic Street Fighter characters, a bunch of characters from Darkstalkers, and I think even one from Red Earth. I think she's in here. I might be wrong. I might be thinking of a different game. Regardless, I really do love this game. This is a wonderful puzzle game, and it's one that I think gets overlooked pretty regularly, which is a shame because it is a fantastic title. I really do think there's a good challenge here, and I think it's a creative use of the puzzle element, especially when you consider that it's a Street Fighter IP. I just think it's fantastic. Shout out to my wife Meredith for suggesting Zuma Deluxe here. Now, Zuma is a game I initially played back when I worked in the game industry on PartnerNet, which was something that they offered on Xbox 360, where you were able to check out games that were uploaded that people were trying to get through certification. And Zuma captivated me immediately. It was a PopCap game. I worked at EA at the time, and it was one that we were releasing under the PopCap banner that I had never really heard of. And when I got into game, oh my god, I was instantly addicted. It is a very simple concept. It is a match 3 game. And the thing that really gets you is that it all of a sudden changes it by having it be almost a twin stick shooter where you have to manipulate the frog guy in the middle of the screen and he shoots a marble across the screen into the other marbles, and if it collides, it sticks. But if you match the colors, it will clear them out, and you can create chains that will draw the endless train of marbles backwards until you're able to clear them all out to complete a level. It's a fantastic game. I love this one. This is one that I loved on the 360. This is the Steam version you're seeing here. Yep, I've bought it multiple times. Love this game, though. Absolutely fantastic title, and one of the most, unheralded puzzle games of all time. I remember playing The Lost Vikings when I was a teenager, and I was really confused by it at the time because I was not a big puzzle gamer in my early teen years. I was far too interested in fighting games and sports games. But as I grew older, The Lost Vikings is something that I really loved, and it was one that I really got into on the Game Boy Advance port of this title, but I've grown to love both the Sega Genesis and the SNES versions, this being the SNES one here. The idea behind this game is you control 3 different Vikings, each of which has a different ability. One can run really fast and knock down barricades and different enemies, one carries a sword and a bow, and one has a shield that it can use to kind of slowly fall down from a great height or use to block projectiles coming in. And you need to make sure that you're working in tandem and using your characters kind of logically to set up step by step how you're going to proceed through a level. So you need to make sure you're using teamwork. It's a brilliant game that you need to kind of, as you advance through, really test your creativity on how you want to proceed through each level. It's a fantastic game. This is originally made by Blizzard, back when they were not Blizzard, they were a different company, but they eventually became Blizzard. Love this one, though. If you haven't played it, I strongly urge you to do so. So I accidentally discovered Krusty's Super Fun House last year when I did my Simpsons ranking video. Link on screen right now if you've not seen it. I do encourage you to check it out. That was a really fun video to do. I had a lot of fun on that one. There's a lot of Simpsons games out there. And Krusty's Super Fun House is one that I completely avoided when I was younger. I am so sad that I did, because this is such a wonderful puzzle platformer. You need to move Krusty through the different levels, and you need to manipulate the environment in order to get the rats to the rat squisher that Bart is manning, because you need to kill all the rats, of course. That's, it's The Simpsons. You gotta, destroy and dismember, engulf in flames. That's just how it works. Shout out to Jason Mantzoukas from Taskmaster. I really do think, though, that this is one of those games that is just under a lot of people's radar, because it's a clever game using an IP that I think a lot of people would have overlooked, because there were some stinker Simpsons games back in the day. This one, though, this one's awesome. You should really check out Krusty's Super Fun House. A Boy and His Blob, at first blush, might just look like a classic platformer, at least a rudimentary one, because I will admit, it has not aged terribly gracefully the older it gets. It does look a little rough around the edges, but the thing that I loved about this game was the creative use of the gameplay element of the jelly beans, because they were used to solve puzzles in this different platform levels that you went to. You needed to stockpile jelly beans, and you needed to utilize them to transform your blob into different objects to be able to advance quickly through the game. It's one that I have legitimately never beaten. I'm very bad at the game, but I was just absolutely blown away by the charm of the title when I was younger, and I love it still to this day. So much so that the Way Forward remake on the Wii, I believe back in 2010, 2011, something like that, is one of my favorite titles of all time. But this one here, the original on the NES, it's still something that I love to this day. Bouncing over to the Neo Geo Pocket Color now, and this is Crush Roller. And the thing I love about Crush Roller is it's a very creative way to do a maze puzzle game. Because the core concept of the game is you need to avoid the enemies, but you need to avoid the enemies while also covering up the empty spaces on the board with paint. You're basically pushing a giant paint roller. And as you fill in those spaces, enemies are going to chase you and walk on them to clear the paint out. So you need to make sure you're moving quickly. You need to make sure you're avoiding them so you don't die. And it's a really creative blend of both Pac-Man and I don't really know because I've never really played a fill-in game before where you need to fill in colors on a map. I just think it's awesome. It is one of those games that I think is just perfectly made for a handheld device, and especially the Neo Geo Pocket Color, which is such a fantastic system anyway, but Crush Roller is one of the best ever made. Absolutely love this game. I think much like Tetris, Dr. Mario is one of those ubiquitous games for people of my generation that grew up on things like the NES and the Game Boy. It's one of those games that is just everyone had an experience with it. And while it might not be like terribly technically advanced compared to modern puzzle games in some regards, it's still one that I think is doing what it can with what it has. Like, when you stop to consider the fact that the game is just as simple as matching colors to clear things out, and you realize how challenging the game can get by adding different speed and different fillers on the level by putting in so many different pills and viruses, you can really see the challenge inherent because you start to have to think ahead beyond just clearing viruses out. You need to start thinking of how the pills are going to cascade when the viruses are eliminated. Absolutely love this game. It's one that, for me, is just a signature NES experience as far as I'm concerned. While on its surface, Donkey Kong on the Game Boy might look like just another Donkey Kong platformer or a retelling of the original Donkey Kong arcade game on the Game Boy, once you get past those initial levels, you are brought in to see an absolutely brilliant puzzle game, a puzzle platformer that to this day holds up incredibly well. And in fact, without this game, we wouldn't have gotten the Mario vs. Donkey Kong series. I guarantee it, because it is just a continuation of that, like down to the mechanics, the core mechanics almost being identical. It's a wonderful game where you need to explore the different levels to go through and complete things in the correct order to be able to get through the level correctly to find all of the requirements you need for each level to 3-star them, basically. And it's amazing. It is probably my favorite version of Donkey Kong, is this particular Game Boy title, because you get not only the arcade great, you get one of the best puzzle games ever made as well. Hopping over to the Dreamcast now with one of my all-time favorite puzzle games. This is Choo Choo Rocket, and the core concept of this one is simple. You are taking your mice, proceeding to get them through a level by placing different arrows on the screen to make them move in a particular direction, and you need to get to the rocket to blast off. Now, that sounds simple at its core, but there's also, of course, since you are a mouse, cats on screen. And as you are moving them through the level, the cat will try to eat you. Of course, the cat can be manipulated by the arrows as well, which is really nice. But you only have a limited number that you're able to put down, so you really need to think ahead of how the paths are going to proceed. It's a really fun game, and it's one that I really enjoyed on the Dreamcast. The Game Boy Advance version is great as well. But my friend John Riggs did his own take on this, and it's an NES game called Choo Choo Mimic, where you need to manipulate the knight that's questing through the dungeon to get to the Mimic so the Mimic can have a snack. Absolutely fantastic title from John, and definitely worth checking out if you haven't done so. Check out his website, pick up the game when you have a chance. It's awesome. I loved Kickle Cubicle when I was younger. It was one of those games that I just thought was incredibly creative, and it was such a simple concept to kind of wrap your head around. You moved around the level, you froze enemies, and you kicked them into open space to fill in blocks so you could proceed further onto the level to collect different items. It's incredibly simple in its design and incredibly deceptively difficult in its puzzle elements, because while the core concept is easy to understand and everyone can grasp, there's multiple ways to solve each level, and I love that. It's one of my favorite NES games. It's one that I really, really enjoyed when I was younger, and it's one that holds up incredibly well to this day. It is kind of like a picture-perfect puzzle game for me from back in the 8-bit days. I absolutely love it to this day. What can I say about Mega Man 2 that I've not said a million times in the past? It is not the best Mega Man game on the NES, but it is my personal favorite. This was the one that introduced me to my favorite video game character of the Blue Bomber. This is one I rented from the Apothecary in Westport, Massachusetts. My mom let me rent it. I brought it home. I was instantly transfixed by it. We went and bought it. Almost like that weekend, I think, before we even returned the game. We went and bought me a copy of it because I liked it so much. It is, to me, what is the epitome and perfection of platforming, of run-and-gun platforming specifically. It is just the best. I love this game. I love everything about it. There are other games in the Mega Man series that do it better. For instance, Mega Man 3, which will be on this video later on, is a better game than Mega Man 2. It introduces more mechanics that are things that we just find commonplace in Mega Mans now. But Mega Man 2, you dance with the one that brought you.
Ninja Gaiden 2, The Dark Sword of Chaos, continues the adventures of Ryu Hayabusa, and it is magnificent. Like, the Ninja Gaiden series, anyway, is fantastic. Like, it's just a wonderfully difficult series of games, but this one just continues the great gameplay that we experienced in the first Ninja Gaiden and just pluses it and makes it better and refines things just a little bit to make this a worthy sequel of the incredible first game that we played. Now, like I said, it is still difficult. It is still incredibly hard. It does not pull any punches, but if you like a challenge, the Ninja Gaiden series, specifically this one here, Dark Sword of Chaos, is something that I encourage everyone to play. One of the best games on the NES as far as I'm concerned. I think it is a remarkable piece of technology and a remarkable video game from an 8-bit generation that would not be out of place were it released today. I was never a big fan of the original Double Dragon on the NES. I didn't think it played very well. So it took me a little while to pick up Double Dragon 2 because I just, like I said, I didn't like the first one. But the second one, oh my god, the second one is incredible. It fixes so many problems from the first one. First off, it plays incredibly well. It looks amazing. The controls are solid. The gameplay is wonderful. The storyline is great. Like, even the music is good. Like, it doesn't miss. Nothing misses. It can be argued that it's a little too easy, because it is significantly easier than the first one. So if you're looking for a challenge on the level of the first Double Dragon, you ain't going to find it here. But if you're looking for something that is the most well-rounded entry in the Double Dragon series, Double Dragon 2 is the one you need. Now, I'll freely admit, I actually prefer the original Star Tropics over Zoda's Revenge Star Tropics 2, but it's still a great game. And what Star Tropics 2 does incredibly well is that it improves in some areas over the first one. I do prefer the storyline in the first one, but this one is still good. And I like the changes that it makes by allowing you 8-direction movement in the game as opposed to just north, south, east, and west. You can actually move in diagonals, which is a huge improvement and a fantastic plus from the original Star Tropics. Like I said, it doesn't quite land as beautifully well as the first one did, because that first one to me was just kind of lightning in a bottle, and this one just kind of feels like a Pretender to the Throne, if I'm being honest with you, but I still love it, I still enjoy it, and it's still well worth playing because the Star Tropics series is amazing, and it's a shame that we only got 2 games in the franchise. Fingers crossed that if we ever get another Smash Brothers, Mike is a playable character. Man, you can't go wrong with any version of Pac-Man that's available on the NES, but for me, Pac-Mania is not only the best Pac-Man sequel, I personally think this is the best Pac-Man game. It is my favorite version of Pac-Man. This is such a wonderful interpretation of the arcade original as well, because it doesn't look as good, but man, does it play just as beautifully well as the arcade original of Pac-Mania. It is so much fun to play an isometric 3D version of Pac-Man. It includes a jump. You're able to jump over the ghosts. Like, that's amazing. It makes the game so much more fun. I absolutely love Pac-Mania. And this is one I don't think a lot of people pay attention to. Because, I mean, let's be honest, it's Pac-Man. People think they know what they're getting with Pac-Man, but I'm telling you, Pac-Mania, worth your time, well worth playing. I think the Commando series is a really fascinating franchise that is just kind of forgotten by Capcom, and the original on the NES is one I love. I really do enjoy that game. I think it's a wonderful kind of classic arcade experience, but Bionic Commando is so much better. Like, it's just such a great game. It does something incredibly different than any other platform on the console by taking the jump away from you. You are unable to jump. You have to use your grappling hook to move around. The map is something that you're able to traverse and kind of pick your poison of where you want to go. You have to find secrets in every level. It's just a fascinating game that really just diverts so far from the original Commando and sticks the landing. I like both of the G.I. Joe games on the NES, but I'm kind of predisposed to liking them because I'm a huge G.I. Joe fan. But the Atlantis Factor, I think, is the better of the two. I think you get more interesting Joes to play with. I think the level designs are better. I think the gameplay is solid. It's a very simple side-scrolling run-and-gun shooter, and it just works. Like, it's fun. The jumping is a little crazy because you're able to jump like the entire length of the screen with certain characters, which is fun but weird. And the different characters that you're able to use all play a little bit differently. So I think there's some really clever gameplay elements involved here as well. It's just a fun title. If you haven't played it, I urge you to do so because it's really easy to overlook this one due to the license, but it's a great game. I mean, it's Super Mario Bros. 3. It is probably the best sequel released on the NES. It's one of the most influential video games of all time. If you don't know Super Mario Bros. 3, hi, welcome to the hobby. You need to play this. It's part of your religion now. It's a perfect game. Like Mario 3 is a perfect video game from top to bottom. Just play it. My personal favorite Ninja Turtles game is TMNT 2, the arcade game, which captured, to me, a perfect representation of the arcade original from Konami. Now, side by side, no, not even close. Of course, it's not a one-to-one, but it's a super fun game that I think is probably the most honest interpretation of the Turtles on the NES. A lot of people like the Manhattan Project. I don't particularly care for it, and I really don't like the first Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles game, but Ninja Turtles 2, the arcade game, I think is just a solid experience. It's a faithful representation of the arcade game while not being a one-to-one perfection of it, and I actually think it actually improves on it in some ways because the levels are longer in the NES version, so. As promised, here is Mega Man 3, which I personally believe is the best Mega Man game on the NES. Now, that doesn't mean it's my favorite, but it does mean it's the best. I can't find any flaws with this game. I legitimately think it does so much incredibly well, and it introduces so much stuff into the series that is just paramount to the title's success to this day. This is the game that brought us Rush. This is the game that brought us the slide attack. It did so much so well with level design. The music is spectacular. The gameplay is challenging, but not so difficult that you're going to pull your hair out and not want to keep playing. The boss fights at the end, notwithstanding, in Wily Castle. I adore it. I absolutely love this game. Like I said, Mega Man 2 is my favorite Mega Man game. Mega Man 3 is the best one. Quality shmups were everywhere on the NES, and 1943 The Battle of Midway is one of the best. This is the sequel to 1942. It is just a magnificent, very simple horizontal shooter. You fly a plane, you shoot down the enemies, you fight bosses at the end of every level. There's not a whole lot of stuff that you can screw up with this format, and Capcom just crushed it. It's an absolutely wonderful title. It is a faithful interpretation of the arcade original. It is not a perfect one-to-one, obviously, because it isn't as powerful as the arcade machine, but the gameplay is there, the gameplay is solid, and it's incredibly fun. Shmups are magnificent on the NES. This is one of the best. Now, really, a lot of stuff from the TurboGrafx could be on this list because, for me, it's all underrated. It's all overlooked because I don't really have a whole lot of experience with the console. I really desperately wanted to get one of the TurboGrafx mini systems when it released, but I wasn't ever able to find one at a good price. So, unfortunately, my experience with the console remains kind of a blank space. But there are a few games I know, and one of them that I really love is Air Zonk, which I think is a really fun shmup. It is a horizontal shmup starring definitely not Bonk. It's future Bonk. It's Zonk. It starts with a Z, not a B. And it's a really clever game. It's a little bit like Parodius. It's a little bit silly. It's decidedly not a serious shmup by any stretch of the imagination. At least not serious in so much as it's, spaceships and stuff like that. It's just a dude flying around who's basically a superhero. And while it doesn't take itself seriously in that regard, the gameplay is seriously fun and seriously difficult. It's a truly challenging title with really awesome gameplay and one of the best soundtracks I've ever heard. Like, I love the entire soundtrack to Air Zonk. It's amazing. If you haven't played this one, and I think that's probably a lot of folks here in the States because we just didn't have a whole lot of exposure to the TurboGrafx, you should check it out. Sometimes you don't need heavy action and crazy set pieces to have a fun game. Sometimes you just need a single screen and arcade action to bring you something awesome, just like Super Buster Brothers. I really enjoy this game. The concept is super simple. You play as a character, and you're popping balloons. And that's the whole game. You shoot up, you pop the balloons will split into smaller pieces, and you have to pop those as well without getting hit. It's a very simple concept to understand, and as someone who has kind of rediscovered his love of single-screen arcade games over the last few years, I wish that I had played this more when I was younger because I would have appreciated it longer. It's a really fun title. There's not a whole lot to say about it other than it's excellently made, it's beautifully designed, it's simple, and it's effective. Super Buster Brothers is an awesome good time. If you haven't played it, you absolutely should. Multiplayer is also a blast on this game. One of my favorite things about the YouTube retro gaming community is that I have discovered
so many video games that I would have otherwise overlooked because of people like my friend John Riggs. John did his Capcom SNES ranking and rated Goof Troop really high. I was kind of taken aback by that because, I mean, it's Goof Troop. Wasn't a fan of the cartoon, really didn't have any desire to play the video game, but watching the way it played and hearing him like heap praises upon it, I was really interested. And what I got when I finally played it was a really fascinating either single player or multiplayer action-adventure puzzle game starring Goofy and Max. And it's brilliant. It is an absolutely fantastic game that just works. Like, everything about it lands. There's nothing in this game that isn't fun. The character designs are great. The animations are wonderful. The music is fantastic. The gameplay is spectacular. The level layouts are fun. Like, it just... Capcom put everything into a game that was licensed based on an animated series that no one remembers. And that's pretty awesome. Goof Troop is a fantastic SNES title and literally one of my favorite Capcom games on that platform. What I wouldn't give for late 80s, early 90s Electronic Arts to come back, because they were making such incredibly creative and weird-ass games like this one here, Haunting, starring Poltergeist. So the concept of this game is you're a ghost, and you're trying to scare the new family that has moved into the house that you're haunting. And that's the whole thing. That's the concept. You scare the hell out of people, you collect the ectoplasm that they drop, and eventually, if you run out of ectoplasm, you go to hell, and you have to collect ectoplasm down there to be able to get back to the haunting. It's a ridiculous concept, but it is such a fun title. It is so creatively made and so incredibly well laid out that it's easy to pick up, understand, and play. And it just screams the 1990s too. Like, it is like extra 90s aesthetic, and I love it. One of the best kind of like overlooked and forgotten games on the Genesis too. I just absolutely adore this title. This is one of my favorite examples of classic licensed games that take the license and make it its own. It doesn't just rely on the plot of the movie, it just makes a great game great. And that's what True Lies is. It is based on, first off, it's based on a fantastic movie, first off. But the video game itself is amazing. It is a top-down shooter where you're playing as Arnold and you are just on a killing spree. That is the whole idea. You are going through each level, you're opening doors, you're shooting bad guys, you're collecting items, and you're working your way through each level. That's all there is to it. Like, there's other things you can pick up. There's weapons, there's conversations that you're having with virtual Tom Arnold. It is a... Yes, seriously. It's just a really great game. I remember when I first played this one, I was a big fan of the movie, and I didn't actually realize that there was a video game based on it until probably about 10 years ago. And when I played it, I was shocked at how excellent it was, because, frankly, I kind of believed at the time that most licensed games suck, and this kind of broke that trend. I really enjoy this one. It's absolutely worth picking up and checking out if you haven't played it, especially if you like top-down shooters. This game's amazing. It's funny, whenever I talk about Gain Ground as being like one of my favorite Genesis games, people always look at me like I've grown a second head. And it's a shame, because I really think this is a quality title that folks just don't give the time of day to, because, I mean, it's an older game and it's an arcade port for something that probably wasn't super popular in arcades, but for me, it's a really amazing signature Genesis experience. You play as a particular character, and the characters are tropes. They're basically, you can play as the barbarian dude, you can play as the cool guy with the machine gun, and as you play, you're going to rescue other characters that allow you to play as them the further into the game you get, because the idea is to complete each level, rescue different characters that you can unlock, and keep moving forward. Now, as you play, characters are going to die, and you're going to be then forced to use one of the characters that you rescued, and those are your lives, which I think is an incredibly clever way to set a title up. It's a little bit slow, and it's a little bit clunky by, I think, probably modern standards, but I still have a blast of this game, and it is still one of my favorite experiences on the Genesis. Now, I know I have talked about my adoration of the absolutely ridiculous concept that is Michael Jordan Chaos in the Windy City in the past, because let's count down the list of just insanity that is this video game. First off, it is a side-scrolling platformer where you play as Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player of all time. You have magical basketballs that do different things, like freeze people. The game kicks off before a charity game from Scottie Pippen. The name of the bad guy is Maximus Cranium. It's ridiculous, but it is solid. The gameplay is fantastic. It is super fun. You are rescuing kidnapped children. What more could you ask for? And then you dig into the pedigree behind this game, and you realize that this was the brainchild of Amy Hennig. If you don't know who Amy Hennig is, she is one of the main voices behind the Uncharted series. So there's really no question as to why I love this game so much. You can see the dedication that would play forward and the sense of humor that would play forward into games like Uncharted, as well as Jak and Daxter, because of Hennig's voice. It's a wonderful game. It is silly, it is fantastic, it is fun, and it is goofy as hell. I absolutely love Michael Jordan chaos in the Windy City. I think I've talked about how much I enjoy the original Commando on this channel in the past, and I do. It's one of my favorites. And I have really liked every single sequel of Commando that has been released, whether it's Bionic Commando in all its subsequent sequels, or Commando 3, Wolf of the Battlefield, which was on Xbox Live Arcade, or this one here, Mercs. I love these games. There's just something so pure and simple and fantastic about a basic run-and-gun shooter, and especially when Capcom puts their design elements behind it, it's something that you know is just going to be hugely fun. This game is wonderful. It plays a lot like the original Commando. You play as a character, you're doing a chase behind on them, you're able to move around the level, and you shoot the enemies that show up on screen. There's huge boss fights at the end where you're fighting massive vehicles and things like that. It's really a fun title. It is something that I think holds up incredibly well, because you don't need something that's a graphical powerhouse. It doesn't have to be this over-the-top crazy bullet hell. It's just fun. I really enjoy this one. It is a solid game and a great continuation of the Commando series. Whenever people ask me about my favorite SNES games, I always make sure to include this one here on the list, Kendo Rage. Now, if you haven't played Kendo Rage, this is essentially a ridiculous version of Valis. So it's Valis with a sense of humor. That's how I always describe it to people, because it really is. You play as a magical girl, she fights with a kendo stick, and you fight creatures throughout the land. You have to get to school, you have to ride the bus to get to school, there's big boss fights at the end of every level. It is a silly game that leans heavily into the overall ridiculousness of what the concept is. And it works. It's hard as hell. It's well designed. It has a great look. The music is fantastic. And it's just fun. And really, sometimes that's all you need. Like, you're not going into Kendo Rage looking for a deep, engaging storyline. You're looking to have fun. It gives you that in spades. It is such a wonderful title, and such something that I remember when I first picked this up. I bought this from Video Sight and Sound in North Fort Myers, Florida, when they were clearancing out all their old stuff. And I got this complete in box for like $3. And I was just buying everything that they had because, I mean, why not? It was CIB SNES stuff. I had never heard of it. I had never played it. I got it home and immediately fell in love with it. Crystallis, or Crystallis, however you want to pronounce it. I don't know if there's a proper way to do so. If you know, let me know in the comments down below. It's one of those games on the NES that I overlooked immediately upon its release, and I regret it greatly because I first played this on the Game Boy Color. I didn't actually play it at first on the NES. It took me years to get to it on the NES, and I am so disappointed in myself for not playing this when it released, because this is a phenomenal action RPG with some incredible mechanics. There's a sword charge mechanic, which is really great. The overworld is awesome. The exploration is fantastic. The combat is wonderful. It's just a fun title. One of my favorites on the NES, and something that I think everyone needs to play. To me, when I look at a game like Kickmaster, the first thing that pops into my head is it's a Castlevania clone. For some reason, the sprite work just speaks to me as a Castlevania-like game. Like, this is going to be kind of a methodical, left-to-right, platforming action game, and it does that to a degree, but the gameplay itself couldn't be farther from what you get in Castlevania. It's difficult. So that's a lot like Castlevania, sure, and you don't have weapons other than your feet, which are registered weapons. They are lethal weapons, registered with the state. I'm sorry, guys. I'm sleepy. It's just one of those days. But I absolutely love this game. This is one that was actually introduced to me by the immortal John Hancock a few years back,
He actually mentioned it again in my recent collab video where we talked about our favorite NES platformers. And it's just an awesome title. It's something that I think a lot of people missed out on, and that's a shame because it's a really great game. I legit never hear anyone talk about Mission Impossible on the NES. And it's a little bit weird that it was turned into a video game, right? Like, this was a series that had been dead for a while. This is a 1960s television series, but I guess when I stop and look at it, we also got a video game based on Gilligan's Island, which was also a 1960s television show. This one, though, Mission Impossible, is a really fun and really challenging kind of top-down, I want to call it an adventure. It's an action-adventure game because you're kind of wandering through different cities and different buildings as different characters of the Mission Impossible crew, and you use their different abilities to keep moving through the levels. And there's a good challenge here, and there's good combat, and I just really enjoy this one. And this might not be for everybody. Like, this might be the biggest kind of, I don't know, Jay, on this list. But for me, absolutely love Mission Impossible. I have legitimately not heard anyone other than John Riggs talk about this game on YouTube that I can recall. I'm sure other people have. I'm sure if I do a search for it, there's going to be thousands upon thousands of videos about this game. But I never hear anyone talking about or singing the virtues of Legacy of the Wizard. This is a platforming RPG where you get to choose different members of a family to play through the different platforming levels, and each family member has different abilities. The combat is fun. The gameplay is awesome. The music is wonderful. The look is a little dated. I will give you that. But don't ignore this game if just looking at the graphics you're thinking that doesn't look good, because you're missing out. This game is fantastic. Man, I love Gremlins 2: The New Batch, both the movie and the video game. And the video game is spectacular. This is a kind of like isometric top-down action platformer where you play as Gizmo. And it's amazing. It's made by Sunsoft, so first and foremost, music is spectacular, and the gameplay is solid and challenging, and the sprite work is incredible. This game just looks amazing. This feels like it I don't want to say it feels like a 16-bit game, because it's very clearly an 8-bit title, but I guess it feels like one that was so close to that kind of advancement to the next gen that we're going to call it a 12-bit. It's kind of right in the middle. I know it doesn't make sense. I don't care. I love this game, though. It is an absolutely spectacular title. It's got a good, solid challenge to it. Makes beautiful use of the license, too. Like, it doesn't try to be something it's not. Like, it is very much a Gremlins game, and it leans heavily into Gremlins as a license, but it uses that license to make something great by taking certain liberties with the different levels and things that you're going to do in the game. Absolutely fantastic title, one of my favorites, and a brilliant representation of what Sunsoft could do on the NES. Might seem a little odd to have a first-party Nintendo title on here, but when I look at things on the NES for sports games, the one that people always seem to talk about when it comes to ice hockey is Blades of Steel, and rightfully so. Blades of Steel is fantastic. It is a groundbreaking game for a reason, but for my money, it's ice hockey from Nintendo. A blue box game, like one of the original releases on the console. I think it was a year 2 release, and it was and is a blast to play. Yeah, it's arcade action. It doesn't really follow the rules of the sport to a T, but the gameplay is solid and the gameplay is fun. And guess what? Not really any of the NES ice hockey games follow the rules to a T. This one's an awesome title. It has an incredible gameplay experience. The different characters all having different traits is a really clever way to go about things, and the gameplay is fun. Nothing says weird license for the NES like a game based on Felix the Cat, a cartoon from the 1920s. It's bizarre to me that we got this game. Like, Felix is a timeless character, sure, kind of like Steamboat Willie or Oswald the Lucky Rabbit are timeless characters, but I don't immediately think of those characters getting video games made about them. Like, we had some about Mickey, sure, and Steamboat Willie was featured in there, and we ended up getting Oswald and Epic Mickey and Epic Mickey 2, but Felix just seems so out of left field. And what we got was one of the best platformers on the NES. It's a fun game. It's fluid. It's enjoyable. The power-ups are great. The level layout is fun. The controls are wonderful. Everything just works. I absolutely adore this game. It is something that is just a brilliant release. And it got a re-release on modern consoles. I actually played this recently on the Switch, and it plays fantastically well. Wacky Races is one of those Grail games developed by Atlas, first of all, so This whole Atlas makes rare games thing goes all the way back to the NES. And there's going to be another one later on this video as well from Atlas that is an incredible NES game. But this is just a spectacular platformer. And it's not a difficult platformer. There's some challenge here, don't get me wrong. Like, there's definitely some NES hard moments, and there's slidey ice levels, so if you hate those, don't worry, you've only got to deal with an entire continent of it. But it's a really fascinating game, and you get to play as Muttley. How can you go wrong with that? It's based on a Hanna-Barbera property, and you get to play as the bad guy. You don't get to do that in any other Hanna-Barbera game. Like, you're not playing as the Great Gazoo or Mr. Slate in the Flintstones games. I guess, is Mr. Slate the villain? I guess he was the boss, so he's by proxy the bad guy. But it's a really solid game, really good platforming. I love the power-up system as well that you're able to collect as you get the different bones. It's going to like toggle between different power-ups at the bottom of the screen, and you're able to activate them if the bone is on top of them. It's brilliant. You can refill your life. It's fantastic. Absolutely love this game. This is one that I love. It is very expensive though, so if you can't afford it, I would suggest finding alternative ways to play it because it's a really, really excellent title and well worth your time. I never played Time Lord until I got it in a Video Games Monthly box a couple of years ago, and it's a shame because I had been told for a while from a few of my YouTube friends here that it's actually a really fun game, and I didn't believe them because I was blinded by the Milton Bradley of it all. I did not think it could be any good, and guess what, guys? It's fun. It's a solid game. Does it have some bugs? Absolutely. Has it got some quirks? Oh, hell yes, it's got some quirks. But the gameplay is fun. The layout is great. It's challenging. It's excellent. It's not excellent. It's challenging. It's really good. I really enjoy it. Much like Time Lord, Captain Skyhawk is not one that I played until a couple of years ago because it was one of those games that I was just like, nah, it's going to be terrible. I don't need to play it. And I wish I had because holy crap, this game is good. This is a solid flying game on the NES. The graphics are wonderful. I love the implied 3D terrain underneath. The combat is really good. The look is good. The music is basically non-existent, so don't really go into this looking for a good soundtrack. But if you like explosions and you like flying games and you like something that does an incredible simulated 3D effect, you need to check this one out. Captain Skyhawk is worth your time. While by today's standards, Wampa might be considered insensitive, and I mean, truth be told, it is. Like, it's all caricatures of indigenous people here in the States, but if you can get past that and you can just look at the core gameplay experience of it, this game is incredible. This is one of the best platformers on the NES. It feels like, when I look at it, like, to me, this feels like a Dragon Ball game, and I actually need to do some research, and Editor J will break in here and say this might be based on a Dragon Ball Z property in Japan. Cut now if it is. But this game is spectacular. It's got some really good gameplay, really good platforming experiences. The graphics are excellent. The combat is wonderful. It's got a little bit of Zelda 2: The Adventure of Link to it with the downward thrust attack, but it also has an upward thrust attack, which is pretty cool. The different enemies and stuff like that in the game are really excellent. There's a good challenge here. It can be relentless. Like, some of the enemy fights can be incredibly relentless and just, like, overwhelming. It's the very definition of NES hard, but man, do I love this game. We've had Kickmaster, might as well go the other side of the body and go with Shatterhand. This is one that was just so amazing to me. Like, this and Power Blade were two of my absolute favorite late NES releases. Shatterhand is amazing. It is a left-to-right platformer where you just punch the crap out of everything on screen. There's a really clever power-up system where you're able to collect these different symbols, and the symbols that you collect will give you kind of like a little helper robot that floats around you and floats behind you and will attack enemies on screen. And it's wonderful. The challenge is there. The design is wonderful. The music is spectacular. One of the best soundtracks on the NES, seriously, here on Shatterhand. And the gameplay is fun and intuitive and easy to understand. This is an NES game that I think every collection really needs. It's a fantastic title that, unfortunately, I don't think a lot of people have played. Here's our second Atlas game on this list, and this is Rockin' Cats, another incredibly expensive game on the NES from Atlas, but this one's amazing because it's another platformer, which when I think of Atlas, I don't think of platformers anymore, obviously. We're always thinking of things like Persona or the Shin Megami Tensei series, but they made a lot of really quality platformers back in the day, and this is one of them. And one of the things I really dig about this one is its use of physics, because it's not just a straight, like, up and down, left and right, end-to-end platformer. You actually are able to grab things and swing around a little bit, and the physics are challenging, and it can make things really interesting the way it kind of breaks out. It's an excellent game. It's really worth playing. It's super fun, and much like Wacky Races, if you can't afford it, there's alternative ways to try this one out, and you really should. Oh, Astyanax. I love this game. I remember this is one that my mom got me, and I've talked about this in the past on the channel. There was a Christmas one year where she got me a massive box of NES games. I don't know how she did it. I'm pretty sure that she found a store that was going out of business, or maybe she robbed the place. I don't know. But Astyanax is one of like the 20 games I got that Christmas, and it was one that I absolutely loved. And I had no idea it was based on an arcade game until like last year. I found it on, it was an arcade console, one of the plug-and-play arcade sticks, and it had the Astyanax on there, and I was blown away. I had no idea. But it's a fantastic kind of hack-and-slash platformer. I absolutely love it. And it's not one I ever hear anyone talk about, because, I mean, at the end of the day, if I look at it and I play it, yeah, it's kind of middle of the road in the grand scheme of things, but that does not change the fact that I personally find it fantastic. Everyone has their favorite baseball game on the NES, and there are many awesome ones to choose from. I could do an entire video talking about baseball games on the NES. I think I might do that. Maybe next month. We'll see. Maybe I'll do a ranking video of every baseball game on the NES to kind of couple with my ranking video of Genesis baseball games. Link on the card right now if you're curious about that. But for me, my favorite NES baseball game is Baseball Simulator 1000. And it's kind of no frills. Like, it is... I mean, all NES baseball games are kind of no frills. There's 2 buttons, but the gameplay is solid. It is a very good implementation of what is basic baseball, basic NES baseball. Like, if you played one NES baseball game, chances are you've played them all, but this one is my personal favorite because it doesn't just do standard baseball. Oh, no. There is much more to it. There is also the Ultra League, where you get to have superpowers. It's great. You can throw lightning bolts as a pitcher. You can split the ball into multiple balls as you throw it. You can make it blow up when you hit the ball. It's amazing. One of my absolute favorite video games, one that I have put legitimate thousands of hours into in my life. Well, maybe not thousands. Hundreds. We'll say hundreds of hours into in my life. Baseball Simulator 1000 is one of the best. One of my favorite films from the 1980s is Willow, an amazing fantasy movie that, yeah, maybe it hasn't aged all that well, and some of the effects are a little cheesy by today's standards, but I loved it then, and I still love it today. I actually went to a store in Columbus, Ohio with John Riggs, gosh, probably 4 years ago now, called Big Fun, and I found some of the Willow movie toys, and I was ecstatic. And the video game from Capcom is one I don't hear enough people talk about. It is a fantastic Zelda clone, where you play as Willow, and all of the characters from the movie are in the game, and it's amazing. Absolutely one of my favorites. The music, combat, graphics, everything is wonderful. Guardian Legend is such a strange concept for a video game, but man, does it work. It's got incredibly difficult bullet hell shmup levels that are almost mind-numbingly frustrating at times. It is such a challenge to get through them, but once you're done and you defeat the boss, it turns into almost a Blaster Master game. It's a brilliant concept. It's a brilliant idea for a game. It is super difficult, but it is incredibly fun. Absolutely amazing game that I never hear people talk about. And if you ask me, I think one of the reasons that no one really knows much about it is the box art. It was just one of those really easy to overlook or really easy to go, what in the world does that have to do with anything kind of games? And it just wasn't compelling enough for people to try it out. And it's a shame because it's an amazing title. I have said in the past, this is one of my favorite arcade experiences. Super Off-Road, featuring Ivan Iron Man Stewart, is one of my absolute favorite arcade games. I absolutely love it. If I see it at a barcade and I go to it, I'm playing it. That is the first thing I'm going to play because it is a magnificent experience. And the NES release is amazing. Is it as good as the arcade? No. Is it as good as the SNES? No. Is it still a great game? It abso-friggin-lutely is. It is a wonderful title. If I told you that one of the best RPG... Well, RPG isn't really the right word, but we're going to go with it. If I told you that one of the best fantasy games on the NES involved pinball flippers, you would probably look at me as if I had grown a second head. But the fact of the matter is, Pinball Quest is a wonderful game. It has an incredible kind of idea behind it. Like, it is a pinball video game. It is video pinball, but it takes place in a fantasy realm where you are doing things like fighting skeletons and attacking monsters as they are moving towards you with your flippers and your ball.
It's a little bit like Yoku's Island Express, which is a modern day game, or Zombie Rollers, which is a little bit like that as well. But this is where that kind of gameplay all originated, was here on Pinball Quest. Absolutely worth it. There's a little bit of Odama in here too, although there's no rhythm involved. It's just, the pinball and the attacking. Love this one though, absolutely worth it. And thanks to John Riggs for introducing me to this one. I love the Lone Ranger. I have loved the Lone Ranger since I was a kid. I used to watch the old Lone Ranger serial shows back on, I want to say Nick at Night, but it might not have been Nick at Night. I don't actually know where it was. It might have just been syndicated on local TV up in Massachusetts. I loved the Lone Ranger comics from the late 90s and early 2000s, and I really love the NES Lone Ranger video game. It's got a really good layout to it. You explore a map. You are able to go into the different towns. There's combat in each town with different ne'er-do-wells as you wander around as the Lone Ranger. It's just excellent. Absolutely love this game. One that I searched for a while and I ended up picking up last year. Absolutely wonderful title. As much as I love the nunchuck attachment for the Wii, there is nothing I enjoy more than just being able to play a game with just the Wii remote. And Wario Land Shake It succeeds in that regard, because it's not only playable with only the Wii Remote, it's playable with only the Wii Remote because it's a platformer, so you just play with it sideways. But the game doesn't stop there, because it uses every single bit of technology in the Wii Remote to its advantage. There is gyroscope controls, there's shake controls, there's gesture motions. It's a perfect example of what the Wii is capable of. Like, as far as games that just fully embrace what that remote is capable of doing, it's hard to top Wario Land Shake It because it's that good. And then you just get to the fact that the game is amazing. It's a wonderful Wario game. It looks unbelievable. It's all hand-drawn. The animations in the game are gorgeous. The designs are wonderful. The level layouts are great. It's really one of the best Wario games ever made. And for something that has really kind of ended up being his swan song as far as video games go outside of the WarioWare Inc. franchise, it's a pretty good way to go out. I think I first learned about A Boy and His Blob when I saw it in a Nintendo Power, and I was just fascinated by the idea of this platforming exploration game where you use jelly beans to power your blob, and I thought that was ridiculous, and I was intrigued, and I was curious, and I rented it, and I loved it. And it's not the kind of game I would typically get into when I was younger, but there was just something magical about David Crane's A Boy and His Blob that I loved, and WayForward bringing that forward, shocker, to the Wii was amazing. It's also playable on modern consoles as well, but the core gameplay of A Boy and His Blob is captured here. It's just significantly prettier. You move around the different platforms, you use your different jelly beans that you have to give your blob different powers and abilities to be able to navigate better throughout these different levels to solve the puzzles and to get to the end of the level. It's a wonderful experience. It's a very low-key game. It's not like over-the-top difficult or crazy or anything like that. Like there's no like white knuckle moments in this game. You're just a kid with some jelly beans and a blob. It's awesome.
I slip into your dream like a monkey into trouser.
One of my Patreon supporters, Ken, is an old friend of mine, and we stopped at his house one year in Georgia. We were going up to Michigan, and we crashed there for the night, and he's like, Jay, you have to see Speed Racer on Blu-ray because it's going to blow your mind how incredible this movie looks. And I was like, well, how good can it look, man? Like, I wasn't really interested in this when it got announced. I didn't really care about it. And I regret that because sitting down and watching that movie was just like candy for my brain. It was so incredible to watch. I loved the action sequences. I loved every character in there. John Goodman was magnificent. Matthew Fox's Razor X was great. And the gameplay on the Wii version of this title is incredible. It takes everything from that amazing movie and puts it into distilled form in this video game, and it just is magnificent. The car foo that you're able to do, the different car combat that they had in the movie, is present in this game. The environments are massive and colorful and loud and bright. It feels like a Wachowski film come to life. And that's the highest compliment I can give it, because the Wachowski sisters are incredible, and their movie that this game is based off of was magic, and this game captures that magic perfectly. Why don't you like Resident Evil, Jay? Because I don't like being scared. I don't like horror games. I don't get into them. takes something really special for me to get past being someone that does not like being scared to really get into a title, and I get that with Resident Evil 4 on the Wii. I love this game. This is one of my favorite video games of all time just because it's so immersive and it's so interactive using the Wii Remote as a gun to move around and to play this game. It feels like a good game this way. Like, Resident Evil was never something I got into when I was younger. I didn't think the original games were very good. I hate tank controls. So it took something really special for me to connect with it and get into it. And I get that here with Resident Evil 4. It looks incredible. The sound is amazing. The gameplay is wonderful. Aiming with the Wii Remote is amazing and just so gratifying to be able to like headshot a zombie and take them out in this game is magnificent. Love this one. It's super cool, man. I just think this is such a wonderful title. You can do this with a standard Wii Remote and a Joy-Con, or you can play this with a Wii Remote with a classic controller attached to it. It's definitely worth playing, though. It's my favorite Resident Evil. I've played a few of them now, and I think this one is probably my favorite. Party. From the outside looking in, Disney Guilty Party shouldn't be something that I enjoy because I don't like party games, don't particularly get into deduction games. Like, I like Clue, that's fine, but for me, deduction games aren't really something I have a lot of fun with. But where Guilty Party sets itself apart is by being a party deduction game, because it works. It's so incredibly well made. The games are a little repetitive, and they're fairly simple in the grand scheme of things. Kind of think of this as like a lesser take on Mario Party in that regard. But the deduction aspect of things is done really well because the writing of the game is so incredibly well done. It has a wicked sense of humor. It does not like stray from that humor either. It leans heavily into it. Like, each character is ridiculous, each character is silly and fun, and it's just a brilliant title. This game is pretty good single player, but where this game really takes off and sings is when you play it multiplayer. I urge you to check this one out, and definitely if you get it, play it multiplayer. You won't be disappointed. This is Kirby's Epic Yarn. I absolutely love this game. This is developed by Goodfield. Goodfield are the guys that have done pretty much everything involving yarn or cloth with Nintendo. So if you liked Yoshi's Woolly World or Yoshi's Crafted World or Kirby's Epic Yarn here, these are the guys that did it. It is just a remarkable game. So Kirby's turned into yarn, and that's pretty much the plot. Like that, there you go. It plays like a Kirby game. It's a side-scrolling platformer. You're able to move your way through each level as you go. You are able to pick up power-ups. You're able to transform into different things as you go, and the game just looks amazing. This is one of the most beautiful Kirby games ever made, and it's just a remarkable title, and it's so much fun to play. I think there's also a really good 3DS version. I've heard good things about it. At least I haven't actually played it myself, but I've heard good things. But for me, this Wii version is magnificent. It's something that I just think is kind of a remarkable experience, and showed what you can do with a character like Kirby, who hadn't had a console game released at the time when this dropped in like 10 years. So thinking outside the box and giving somebody an opportunity to create some... Loved Metal Slug, and I love that SNK kind of took the approach of the Wii of putting out a bunch of collections, because there was this one, there was Art of Fighting. Pretty sure there was a King of Fighters collection on the Wii as well, but Metal Slug Anthology here, giving you 7 different Metal Slug games, is amazing. It's classic Metal Slug action. You can play this with a Joy-Con. You can play this with a nunchuck and a Wii Remote. You can play this with just a Wii Remote. It's just fun. I really love this title, man. This is just such a wonderful collection of games, classic arcade experiences that are really awesome to play on a home console because you don't have to worry about quarters at home. You can just keep playing. The games look beautiful on the Wii. They play great. It's just a perfect collection. I found this when I was visiting Seattle a few years ago. I found this at another castle, and I am super happy that I picked it up because I kind of hemmed and hawed on it a little bit, and really happy I did because this is an amazing collection. I am so sad that this is the only entry in this series we ever got. This is Zack and Wiki Quest for Barbaro's Treasure. This released in 2007. This is a very, very early release on the Wii, and it's clear to see that this game here and everything that went into it was just inspired, and Capcom was feeling the potential creativity of what the Wii could offer. It played like a point-and-click adventure, but it played like a point-and-click adventure that used the Wii Remote to not only operate as like a cursor, but it used it as a thing to operate as gesture mechanics as well. So it took what it wanted to be in being that classic kind of new take on a point-and-click adventure, but also coupled it with the actual motion controls inherent to the Wii Remote. It was amazing. The game is beautiful to look at. It's silly, it's fun, it's light and breezy. It's just a really wonderful game that is kind of a perfect example of what the Wii was capable of. The gameplay can't be matched. I haven't really played anything else like this at all on the Wii. It's just a really unique title. Definitely worth playing if you haven't done so.
Boy, it feels like a building just came down on my head.
Anytime I can get a really fun Batman game that doesn't take itself too seriously. I mean, look, I love the Arkham games. I love pretty much everything Batman has been in. I love Injustice. I love Justice League Heroes. But if I can get something that leans heavily into that ridiculously campy Batman action, especially when it's from one of the greatest animated series of all time, and Batman the Brave and the Bold, I am a happy camper. The Wii version of this game is incredible. It is a side-scrolling beat-em-up where you get to play as Batman or Robin, and you get tons of superhero sidekicks. You get to call them in. The gameplay is magnificent. The environments are wonderful. The situations are asinine, ridiculous, and just silly. It is exactly the type of game it should be. And every voice actor from the series, including Diedrich Bader, yes, Diedrich Bader from The Drew Carey Show, who played Batman, are voicing their characters in this game. It's amazing. I just cannot say enough how much fun this game is. It gets a little slow at times. There are some areas of the game where it's incredibly repetitive, but I mean, it's a beat 'em up. That's kind of to be expected. Don't overlook this one just because it's based on an animated series that didn't take itself too seriously, because the game is seriously awesome. So not only do I love Super Paper Mario just because it's a continuation of probably my favorite Mario series in Paper Mario, it's a brilliant adaptation of that franchise and turning it into something new and different and exciting and wonderful and just amazing. I cannot find any fault with this game. I love the 2D platforming elements. I love the action RPG elements. I love the fact that while it is a 2D platformer, it's a 2D platformer in a decidedly three-dimensional world, because you're able to flip the world and move around and do all the things that are signature to a Paper Mario game. But the things I really like about this, the things I like even more about Super Paper Mario, is the fact that it inspired one of my favorite games of all time, Carl. It's a magical title, and it's something that I think a lot of people overlooked. Maybe overlooked isn't the right word, but I think a lot of people were more appreciative of games like The Thousand Year Door and the original Paper Mario as opposed to Super Paper Mario because it was different than what they had come to expect. And that's a shame, because they're missing out.